In a quiet, secluded corner of the Imperial Palace, a small room sat wrapped in silence. Inside the room, a 9-year-old girl sat calmly in her chair. Though her face still carried the innocence of a child, her eyes held a sadness far beyond her years. A maid entered the room carrying a tray with a cup of tea. A gentle smile spread across her face as she approached the girl, and said, "Your Highness, it's time for your snack." The maid's name was Isabella Briciarisha, and she had been the princess's nanny ever since she was a child. She speaks. "That won't be necessary, Isabella. We're in the thick of it. Food's tight, snacks are a pipe dream," Isabella says. "Your Highness, you're the only daughter of His Majesty, the Emperor of the Eastern Empire. Even at just 9 years old, you're already setting an example as a model member of the royal family. When His Majesty returns from the battlefield, he'll be tickled pink." Then she lost in thought. There's no way that's true. Being royalty didn't mean much. All I really had to my name was a ridiculously long and fancy name, Alisia Driphite Seer. And as for my so-called father, he marched off to war when I was 6, and 3 years later, that war still hasn't ended, Isabella said. "Your Highness, please don't worry. His Majesty will return victorious. I just know it. And if anything were to happen, I swear I'll protect you to the very end," Alisia says. "Yeah, thanks." Then she lost in thought. If only I still had my magic, I could have ended this whole war myself. In the Eastern Empire, there's an ancient legend that's been passed down for generations. A witch, all-powerful and omniscient. She appears only on pure white nights, granting the wishes of those who call upon her. That witch was me. They say if you make a heartfelt wish under a full moon, the white night witch will make it come true. Because of that legend, countless people prayed to me, hoping their dreams would be fulfilled. Then she recalled that a girl said it. My wish. Anyway, long story short, I was powerful. But, for some crazy reason, when I blinked my eyes again, I had lost everything. No magic, no power, and worst of all, I had been reborn as Alisia, the only daughter of a tyrant emperor, a girl whose mother had died the moment she was born. Maybe he blamed me for my mother's death, because from that moment on, the emperor abandoned me in the Imperial Palace, all alone, which meant I spent the last 9 years locked away here, never once seeing my own father's face. The only person who ever cared for me was Isabella, my one and only nanny, the only person in this palace who truly loved me. After a while, Isabella smiled and said, "It's pouring cats and dogs out there. Weather like this, you should be careful not to catch a cold." At that moment, it starts raining outside. Alisia looks up at the sky, and suddenly there is a loud clap of thunder and lightning. Seeing this, Isabella said, "Oh my!" That startled me. Alisia began to think, what was that just now? Then at that moment, Isabella stepped forward, covered the window with the curtain, and asked, "Your Highness, when do you think the war will finally wrap up?" Alisia replied, "Who knows?" At that moment, a soldier came running and speaks, Your Highness." As soon as he arrived and stopped, Isabella asked, "What kind of outrageous disrespect is this? How dare you step foot in the Imperial Princess's palace?" Soldier shouted loudly, "His Majesty the Emperor has fallen in battle." Hearing this, Alisia lost in thought. I was just 9 years old, an orphan. That's when the magic I had lost came back. Then soldier says, "Luckily, we won the war. But in the final battle, His Majesty the Emperor," Alisia asked, "Your name?" He replied, "Pardon?" "Shubal Izab, Your Highness." Then Alisia stooped up, stepped forward and asked, "Ah, right. Sir Izab, from the 5th Night Division, correct?" Sir Izab replied, "Yes, Your Highness." Then Alisia said, "You know, Sir Izab, there's something you overlooked." Sir Izab asked, "What do you mean?" Alisia speaks, "I get that it was an emergency, but since when is it okay to barge into the Imperial Princess's chambers without so much as knocking? What kind of law allows that?" Hearing this, Sir Izab began to think. Wait, was the princess always this sharp-tongued? Then he said, "My deepest apologies, Your Highness," Alisia added. "Just because I've been locked away in this palace doesn't mean you can treat me like I don't matter." At that moment, she began to think. With the Emperor kicking the bucket all of a sudden, there's no other heir. No successor lined up either. Then Isabella asked, "Your Highness, where are you going?" She continued thinking, well, since things have turned out this way, Why not give this whole emperor thing a shot? Isabella calls out. Your Highness! Meanwhile, in the throne room, the nobles were talking among themselves. Let's find some fresh royal blood to take the throne. There has to be at least one distant relative still alive. What a ridiculous notion! The emperor offed every last one of his relatives when he took the throne. Then what are we supposed to do? Then suddenly, the door broke, and a servant fell inside. Alisia entered and said, Why are you looking so far and wide? I'm right here. Then Alisia stepped forward and sat on the emperor's throne. At that moment, a noble asked, Who dares to sit on his majesty's throne? Another noble said, Everyone. Look at that hair. Isn't that the same silver hair as his majesty? And those red eyes, even the gaze looks exactly the same. Then, could it be? Princess Alisia. Alisia speaks. You only just realized? Judging by your faces, you don't seem pleased with me. What's the problem? Hearing this, a noble stood up and slammed his fist on the table and shouted loudly, A woman as emperor? That's absolutely unacceptable. Besides, she's just a princess in name, confined to the princess's palace her whole life. How can a princess who's never even set foot outside the palace become emperor? At that moment, Alisia asked, Which family do you belong to? He said. What? Alisia says. I asked for your name. Then the nobles started talking among themselves. No way, she's only 9 years old. To have such presence at that age, he replied. I am Marquis de Mars of the Parang family. Alisia smiled and speaks. A marquis? Yet that's the extent of your thinking? Is this really the level of the ministers leading our empire? It looked like the emperor was sitting behind her. Seeing this, a noble began to think. Looks like I can see his majesty standing right behind her. She says, Just because I was locked away doesn't mean I'm not royal blood. What, were you hoping for some puppet emperor to pull the strings behind? Marquis de Mars was shocked and said, Pardon? No, that's not what I meant. Then she began to think. Seriously? You're all shaking in your boots in front of a 9-year-old? Pathetic. At that moment, a noble stooped up, bowed respectfully and said, Arnold Herdev of House Herdev greets Your Highness. Your Highness, there is only one thing we are concerned about. Your ability. Being emperor isn't just about wearing a crown. It comes with huge responsibilities. To carry that weight, you need real skills. The truth is, you haven't proven anything yet. It would be reckless to place you on the throne like this. On top of that, the war has left countless regions in ruins. We need someone who can take charge and handle the crisis right now. Hearing all this, she stood up and speaks. So, you're talking about whether I've got what it takes to be emperor, huh? Arnold Herdev asked. So, can you prove you have what it takes to be emperor? Alisia speaks. Piece of cake. Then Alisia snapped her fingers, and Arnold Herdev started floating in the air. He was shocked and shouted loudly. Wait, what? Hold on a second. What in the blue blazes? She said. You will tell them what you saw with your own eyes. Then both of them suddenly disappeared. Seeing all this, the nobles were surprised and started talking among themselves. Teleportation magic? That fast? No way. I've never seen or even heard of anything like this. Casting high-level magic without a single magic circle. Has there ever been a mage with such talent in history? Don't you remember? His Majesty reached Sword Master level at the same age. Who would have thought she'd take after him this much? That's some freaky-deaky talent, Isabella said. Your Highness. Then they disappear from the palace and appear in a village near the border of the Eastern Empire. At that moment she think, It's been a while since I've used magic. I was a little worried, but it looks like it's working just fine. I thought I lost my magic completely when I was reborn. So how did it come back? Arnold Herdev speaks. Your Highness, don't tell me this is the border village? Alisia said. That's right. I deliberately brought us to the closest point on the border. The damage here is worse than I expected. Then he asked, What exactly are you planning to do here? She stepped forward, picked up some soil, placed it on her palm, blew on it and said, Let's see. Then she think, from this moment on, with just a wave of my hand, the wounded will rise fully healed. The ruins of broken buildings will restore themselves piece by piece. And the food shortages? There will be more than enough to feed every starving soul. And then some. Everything's back to normal. Everyone was surprised to see this. Arnold Herdev says. No way. She used magic again, and then they disappeared from there. People were surprised to see this and then said, What, in the name of God? A divine. This is Alicia's miracle. They return to the palace. She speaks. Everything's back to normal. Isabella asked, Your Highness, where on earth did you go? She says, I just finished restoring the entire border region. Hearing this, a noble was shocked and said, What? Another noble speaks. That's impossible. The war just ended yesterday, and you're telling me everything has already been rebuilt? Another noble stepped forward and says, See for yourself. Tell me, is this really true? Arnold Herdev says, It's real. She restored everything in the blink of an eye. All she did was lift her hand, and the ruins rebuilt themselves, and food appeared out of nowhere. At that moment, she began to think, Geez, you're all making such a fuss over nothing. Then she stepped forward and said, I'm not expecting you to acknowledge me just because I pulled off one little trick, so go ahead. Set your expectations high. Because this is just the beginning. I'll show you a whole lot more. Then she was heading back to the room when she looked at Isabella and started thinking. Looks like Isabella is still in shock. Can't really blame her though. 9 years ago, the young princess should have been born into a world of celebration and blessings. Instead, her fate began with her mother's death, her father's complete rejection, and the Empire's bitter resentment. Tell me, what crime could a newborn possibly have committed? I just hope she never felt completely alone. I just hope she knew she was never truly alone. That day, I swore to dedicate my life to her, to be the family she never had. For 9 years, I stood by her side, serving her closer than anyone else. I thought I knew her better than anyone, but the person I just saw, that was a face I had never seen before. For the first time, I wondered, is this really the same princess I've always known? Was she hiding her true self all this time? If Her Highness isn't just an ordinary human, then what does that mean for me? Then she grabbed Isabella's hand and said, Isabella, you must be pretty shaken up, huh? So, how do I explain this? Isabella smiled and says, Your Highness, the weather is beautiful today. At that moment, Alicia think, it doesn't matter who she is or what she has become. I'll stick by her side till the cows come home. Thanks, Isabella. Ever since that day, everyone bowed their heads to me. They hurriedly worked to restore the once ruined Imperial Princess Palace. Not only that, but my official Imperial education also began in earnest. Since I hadn't learned these lessons earlier, I had to start them all at once. I had to master every possible academic discipline. For an ordinary child, it would have been unbearable. But for me, well, it wasn't particularly difficult. A knock is heard. Alicia said, Come in. A boy entered the room. Seeing him, Alicia thought, Senelt, appointed as the Emperor's aide at the young age of 17. A man who has served by the Emperor's side for a staggering 7 years, surviving under that irritable and strict Emperor, without getting his head chopped off for all these years. Senelt stepped forward boldly and said, I greet you, Your Highness. Alicia says, Ah, Senelt. Senelt speaks. As per your orders, we have ensured that news of His Majesty's passing has not leaked to the outside world. Hearing this, she thought, with imperial authority still unstable, the Emperor's death becoming public knowledge would only lead to chaos. Then she smiled and said, Good. Avoiding unnecessary trouble is best. She thought again. The funeral will be postponed for as long as possible. Then she asked, Has Debyang arrived? Senelt replied, Yes, Your Highness. The scholar is already waiting in the reception room. She says, How unusual for him to be early. Tell him to come in. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a boy entered the room energetically. He smiled and said, Greetings, Your Highness. His name is Debyang Brook, a noble-born mage from the Magic Tower and Alicia's magic instructor. She asked, What brings you here on time for once? Debyang Brook replied, Oh, come now. How could you say such a thing? I am always fully dedicated to Your Highness' lessons. Then he added, Today, I have brought a magic equation that even scholars and tower mages have failed to solve for years. Please solve it. As she picked up the paper, she said, You never seem interested in teaching me. All you ever do is try to take advantage of me. Debyang asked, How could someone like me dare to teach Your Highness? So please, just give me the answer. Then she used magic to burn the paper. Seeing this, Debyang was shocked and says, Ah, no! Fortunately, I understand Your Highness' temperament well. I prepared a copy in advance. This alone proves how seriously I take these lessons, wouldn't you agree? Then Alicia reviews the equation while speaking. Hand it over. Now that I think about it. The Emperor was quite talented, wasn't he? Debyung said. Of course. His Majesty was one of the few sword masters in the entire world, she added. And yet, such a powerful man perished on the battlefield, he says. No wonder the news of his death caused an uproar, she asked. I heard the enemy king used dark magic against him, he speaks, or so my sources tell me. During the Emperor's final battle with the enemy king, a massive surge of dark magic was directed at His Majesty, and then, when the explosion cleared, nothing remained where His Majesty had stood. Absolutely nothing. A sudden, enormous explosion engulfed the area. A search party was dispatched, but they never found him. Eventually, they declared him dead. Hearing this, she began to think, no matter how powerful a sword master is, in the end, he was still human. If he took the full force of soul-consuming dark magic, then she said, then the chances of him surviving are practically zero. At night, Isabella prepared her for sleep and said as she was leaving, Sleep well, Your Highness. Alisia speaks. You too, Isabella. She fell asleep, but after some time she woke up and sat up. Her gaze fell on the table. She used magic, and the paper flew toward her. Looking at it, she thought, I do feel a little bad for Isabella, but if I've declared myself emperor, I actually need to act like one. Then she said, the case of the missing children. Something about it doesn't sit right with me. Then she read the paper. Serial disappearances of children. Disappearing one after another near the Imperial Palace. All victims are commoner children. 6 missing so far. List of missing persons. Cal Thomas, Jeek Stifwell, Nella Caven. Others unlisted. Then she said, It's getting late. It's too late at night for someone who looks like a child to be wandering around. But it's also the perfect time for a child to be kidnapped. At that moment, she used teleportation magic and went there. She said, Looks like I'll have to use that method. Then she used magic and added, This should be the place. Ah, there they are. Suspicious people. No doubts. If my instincts are right, found them. At that moment, she appeared near the children. A frightened child looks up, he said. Angel. She smiled and speaks, Stay quiet. I'll get you out of here. I'll help you, so be quiet. Then she looked around and thought. The report clearly said there were 6 people. Looks like they've already caught the target. At that moment, she used magic, and all the prison doors opened. She continued thought. Are they trying to turn the kids into slaves? At that moment, kidnappers came and shouted loudly. What was that loud noise just now? Another kidnapper asked. Why is this open? How did you get in? Alisia used magic to bind them, and they shouted loudly. What is this? Aren't you going to untie me? Alisia said. It's so noisy, I'm going crazy. Everyone, come out. Aren't you going home? They all looked at her in silence. She asked, What's going on? A girl says, I don't know the way. At that moment, she used magic again, and they all got out. She created an arrow with magic and said, If you follow this, you should be able to go back home. Is that good now? All the children followed the arrow. She says, Be careful. Then she began to think. It's not that deep of a forest, though. Why couldn't the villagers find the children? Is there someone watching their back? Meanwhile, the nobles were talking among themselves in the throne room. Is it true that the princess solved the case of the missing children? The ones currently locked in the underground prison are the kidnappers, right? That's correct. But it seems there's someone behind them, and they're being interrogated. What's so enjoyable about this, Marquis? What's not enjoyable about it? The princess has just solved a big problem for us. Don't tell me you're still coveting the imperial throne? At that moment, Arnold slammed his hand on the table and said angrily, Hasn't the country been in turmoil ever since the war broke out? But now, the princess is personally solving the empire's problems. Isn't that an amazing accomplishment? Then a noble speaks, I agree. Is there any more reason to doubt her abilities? For the empire, it's time for a new sun to rise. Meanwhile, Alisia brought them to the prison and questioned the kidnappers. Now, kidnappers, speak the truth. Is your backer involved with illegal slave traders? A kidnapper replied. I don't know what you're talking about. She speaks. I'm asking you this personally because I want to give you one last chance. There are plenty of ways to find out anyway. We can't say anything. Then kidnapper said. If we reveal any information, we'll face something far worse than death. You have no idea how cruel that woman is. Then he died. Seeing this, she was shocked and asked, What? Did he die? Then she said, "Things are getting interesting, huh?" As morning, she was walking through the market when she suddenly thought, "This time, it's more convenient than the little kid appearance." Then she used magic to take the appearance of a young girl. She was walking through the market and began to think, "This way will be easier to infiltrate. The large casino at the end of the shopping street. Is it over there?" According to the memory of the kidnapper I read, illegal slave trading is taking place in the underground auction house of the casino. Why are they going to such lengths to avoid the Imperial eyes? We'll find out once we capture that woman, who seems to be behind this. Suddenly, someone bumped into her and said, "Oh, my apologies." Then she felt something and thought, "This is dark magic? And on top of that, that guy's magic is mixed in," she said. "Forget it, it's not my problem." Then she went near the casino. At the entrance, the guards were talking to a girl. "You may enter. There will be a magic tool inspection." The guard used magic, and she thought upon seeing it. "They think they can catch me with such a flimsy method. They won't be able to detect my magic." Guard speaks. "You may enter." As she entered, she heard a man say, "With this, I can participate in the auction, right?" Another asked, "Of course. Do you have any idea how hard it was to get this?" Seeing him, she think, "Golden ticket." She saw the golden ticket in the man's hand, then used magic, and a similar golden ticket appeared in her hand as well. Then she showed the golden ticket to a man and said, "I'd like to ask for guidance." He says, "Ah, yes," she asked. "Are you planning to guide me after the auction ends?" He replied, "No, that's not it. I'll guide you right away." He brought her there, where it was written on the door, "No entry except for authorized personnel." Then he bowed and speaks, "Please get in." She went inside and said, "We've arrived." Then, "Have a pleasant time. It's going to be a very enjoyable time." Then, "Have a great time. This is going to be a very enjoyable time." She used invisibility magic and disappeared. Then she think, "Should we look around and see what they have before the auction starts? Those must be items only a ducal family can afford." "Huh! There are royal items too?" At that moment, she heard a voice. She looked and saw a girl speaking. "I apologize, Count. The ones who were supposed to prepare. The children ended up getting caught by the Imperial family." Count asked, "Did you use incompetent fools, which is unlike you?" She replied, "It seems the Empire has replenished its forces now that the war is over. But my younger brother has prepared something for today, so cheer up." Seeing her, she think, "Red hair. Is that woman the mastermind behind this?" Then the girl showed a bottle to the Count. Seeing bottle, Count smiled and speaks, "No! What exactly does your brother do that allows him to bring something this valuable without fail every month?" She said, "That I cannot tell you." "I see. As long as I get what I need, it doesn't matter." Then she placed the bottle down and left, and Alisia watched her and began to think, "This is a drug that only dark sorcerers can create. Cashinable. Something that is rarely seen among humans, since dark magic itself is a power that devours life and soul. It has been forbidden to humans by the will of the gods. Moreover, even among dark sorcerers, only those of considerable skill can make cashinable. Unless, of course, there's a top-tier dark sorcerer who is born under a lucky star." Then the announcer announced, "The auction will begin shortly. All attendees, please take your seats if you wish to participate." Then Alisia said, "These people are getting into something bigger than I expected." Then everyone sat in their seats, and the girl came onto the stage and speaks, "I extend my gratitude to all our distinguished guests for attending. I am Kira, the host of this auction. Yes, you've all been waiting for this. Now, let us begin the first auction. A ruby sculpture imbued with divine blessing." Seeing this, Alisia began to think, Isn't that the national treasure of the kingdom of Lorette? The national treasure of the distant kingdom of Lorette, the heart of the 12th bell. Though it is a small nation, it is still a sovereign country. Putting another nation's treasure up for auction, they must be out of their minds." Then she says, "Now, let the bidding begin." Then people started. Bidding began. 2,000 gold, 2,500 gold, 3,000 gold. Alisia closed her eyes and said, "I guess we should begin." A loud sound rang out. Hearing this, people was shocked and asked, "What? What's going on?" Kira says, "There seems to be a problem. It will be resolved shortly, so we ask all esteemed guests to remain in their seats." At that moment, Alisia suddenly appeared on stage, and everyone was shocked. The crowd asked, "What is this? Who are you? Holding the ruby sculpture, Alisia said. Even if it's a small nation, stealing a national treasure? You must have some power. Seeing her, Kira smiled and asked, Who are you? Alisia make it disappear and asked, Who else would I be? Then she showed a paper and added, Someone from the Imperial Palace here to catch illegal auctioneers. Hearing this, the people started talking among themselves. They said they're from the Imperial Palace. Shouldn't we run? I don't want to get caught. Then Alisia used magic to close the door and said with a smile, You may have entered freely, but leaving is another matter. People was shocked. Then she asked, How dare you hold an illegal auction within the Empire? At that moment, the Count came and shouted loudly, You clearly look young. You're just pretending to be from the Imperial Palace to ruin the auction. Then he stepped forward, snatched the paper from Alicia's hand, and shouted loudly again, Where did you get this fake and dare to interfere? Fake. Do you think I don't know? That the Emperor is dead? Then Alisia speaks calmly. I can't believe someone would run their mouth so recklessly, unaware of how terrifying the Imperial family is. Right now, there is no one in the Imperial family who can stamp the royal seal. Then Alisia removed her hood. No matter how lowly a count from an insignificant family may be, they should at least know that only those with Imperial blood have silver hair. Seeing her silver hair, the Count panicked, fell back, and said, Silver hair? That. Then Alisia says, What a shame. That someone still remains who can wield the Imperial seal. As soon as she stepped out of the room, Isabella asked, Your Majesty, where have you been sneaking off to again? She replied, Nothing serious. Just. Then she think, I merely raided an illegal auction house and arrested everyone there. Then Isabella said, Your Majesty, I've been feeling extremely anxious lately. She asked, What? Why? What's happening? Is someone harassing you? Isabella replied, It's because a certain person I've served for 9 years keeps sweeping through dangerous areas without a single guard. Hearing this, she think again. She was talking about me. Then Isabella speaks. It would be nice if you'd at least give me some indication of where you're going. She says, I understand. I promise I'll tell you before I leave from now on. Hearing this, Isabella smiled and said, I'm holding you to that promise. Oh, and the advisor was looking for your Majesty. Said he has something important to discuss. She said, Senelt? A little while later, she went to Senelt. He stood up and speaks. You've returned, your Majesty. She asked, You were looking for me? Senelt replied, The ministers are waiting for you in the conference room right now, your Majesty. She asked, For me? Why? Senelt replied, They say they have urgent matters to discuss with you. She cleared his throat and speaks. I suppose it's about my coronation. I have been showing off my abilities too much these past few days. Then she asked, Sedelt, what about you? Will you follow me? At that moment, she began to think. Saymond has followed me through my illness without any complaints until now. However, whether that's truly proof of loyalty to me remains unknown. Either way, he's someone who was chosen by the Emperor's hand and protected the Crown Prince's side. Then she added, I can immediately tell whether your words are true or not. So speak only the truth. After saying that, she think again. I need to keep an eye on him. Senelt speaks. For the peace and safety of the Empire, I have only one duty. To serve the son of the Empire. Hearing this, she began to think again. As expected, you never disappoint me. Then she said, Yes, that's sufficient. By the way, I have a task for you. He says, Command me, your Majesty. At that moment she speaks. It seems one of the palace servants is accepting bribes to leak internal palace affairs. He says, This is my negligence, your Majesty. She added, No, Semelt, this isn't something for you to apologize for. I've already captured and imprisoned the Count responsible, so just find out who accepted his money and talk. He said, I understand. She speaks. I should go see the ministers who must be impatiently waiting for me. Then she goes to the throne room. A noble stood up and said, We are in the presence of Her Highness the Princess. She sat down on the throne and asked, What is it you wanted to say? Arnold replied, The imperial ministers wish for a new sun to rise over an empire covered in darkness. Please rise as our sun and care for the empire. Then all the ministers stood up and said, Rise as our sun and care for the empire. She says, Minister of Finance? He replied, Yes, your highness. She added, Prepare for the coronation ceremony. After a while, Isabella was styling her hair. At that moment, Isabella asked, Your Majesty, are you very tired? Hearing this, she lost in thought. When the Emperor imprisoned me like that, and everyone turned their backs on me, the only person who protected me, then she says, Isabella. Isabella reply, Yes, Your Majesty. She speaks, I'm going to become Emperor. Then she lost in thought again. In this place that was no different from a large prison, only Isabella cared for me. I've always believed Your Majesty is right. So walk the path you desire. My only family. Thank you, Isabella. Isabella speaks. It's only natural, isn't it? If anyone dares to oppose Your Majesty's will, I'll be the first to strike off their head. Hearing all this, Alisia became happy. On the day of the coronation, Isabella got her ready and speaks. Your Majesty, all preparations have been completed, Alisia said. I'll come out now. Isabella smiled and says, Your Highness, you look absolutely magnificent. Alisia asked, Of course. Do you forget who I am? Then she said, Isabella. Isabella says, Yes. Then she asked, Your Highness, is there something troubling you? Alisia smiled and replied, From now on, I will ensure your happiness. Isabella speaks, Serving by Your Highness's side at this moment is my greatest joy. Your Highness, all preparations are complete. Then Alisia said, I shall take my leave now. At that moment, she lost in thought. After a long and dark period of 9 years, the moment of change finally arrives. Finally, I stepped into the light. Seeing her, High Priest speaks loudly. I greet Her Imperial Highness, the Princess. All the nobles bowed respectfully. She stepped forward and lost in thought. Once this moment passes, I will no longer be addressed as Princess, but as Empress. This very day, at last, I shall become the new son of this empire. Then High Priest speaks. The first servant of the divine, acting on behalf of the God's will, presents the symbol of the Emperor to the new son. Just as the High Priest was about to place the crown on Alicia's head, a sudden powerful, echoing explosion occurred, shaking the entire palace. She covered herself and the priest with magic and began to think, a surge of power like this, it's not something just anyone can produce. Then Emperor came inside and said, While I was away for a moment, I was quite curious about who dared to covet my throne. You have quite an interesting face, I must say. All the nobles was shocked and said, No, Your Majesty the Emperor. At that moment she think, these old fools, they were quick to talk about the new son, but now. Then she stood up and speaks. Oh my, is that you, father? I apologize. This is my first time meeting you, so I failed to recognize you. It's a pleasure to meet you for the first time, father. At that moment she bowed respectfully and said, Princess Alisia Drefiteseer greets you, father. Emperor stepped forward and says, Get out of my way. Then the emperor walked toward the priest and said, What an unpleasant temper you have. At that moment, the emperor killed him. Seeing this, she think, Did I just say something different from what I was thinking? Then, in that very moment, the emperor placed his sword on Alicia's neck and said, How dare you defy the emperor's command? Not only did you leave the princess's palace, but you also covet my throne. Alisia speaks. The empire seemed to be in chaos. So as the princess, I could not remain idle. Emperor asked, It seems you have no fear of death. Are you truly that foolish? Alisia replied, Father, you're quite amusing yourself. If you truly meant what you just said, you would have already struck me down with that sword. You must be exhausted after returning from a long war. How about stepping down from the throne and taking a rest? Hearing this, Emperor speaks. It seems you truly wish for your head to be severed. Then Alisia bowed and added, If that is truly your wish, father, then so be it. I shall take my leave for today and return to see you tomorrow, Your Majesty. At that moment she think, That's a lie, you fool. As if I'd go looking for you. Then Emperor shouted loudly, Get out of my sight this instant. In the evening, she sat on her bed and began to think. Clearly, my magic faltered in front of the Emperor. At that moment, she recalled what Emperor had said. How dare you defy the Emperor's command? Not only did you leave the princess palace, but you also covet my throne? Then I asked, How about stepping down from the throne and taking a rest? What on earth was that? Suddenly, Isabella came and asked, Your Highness, are you all right? Alisia asked. Why? Isabella replied. You must be deeply upset. Still, he's family, Alisia said. I'm fine, Isabella. It's been like this for 9 years. How could that change overnight? Now that the rightful owner has returned, I must step aside. Hearing this, Isabella smiled and asked, Your Highness, shall I tell you an interesting story? Alicia asked. An interesting story? Isabella replied. Yes. Then she started. It's a tale I heard when I was young. You've heard of the legendary Witch of the White Knight, haven't you? Hearing this, Alicia think. Don't tell me. Isabella continued. The Witch of the White Knight resides in the moon. They say if you make a heartfelt wish on a full moon night, she'll grant it. Then she says, So, Your Highness, don't worry, Alicia said. What? Then Isabella started again. Every time the full moon rises, I'll pray earnestly to the Witch of the White Knight for you. Dear Witch, please help our princess achieve whatever she desires. Alicia speaks. Thank you, Isabella. Then Alicia went to sleep. A girl is praying. Please, hear my prayer. Someone who resembles him. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and began to think. It feels like I had a dream, but I can't remember it. It's unsettling. The next morning, she was sitting at the table, thinking about that dream. Isabella came and said, Your Highness. Alicia speaks. It feels like I should remember something, but it's not coming to me. Isabella says, Your Highness, what are you so lost in thought about? You need to eat. Alicia said. Huh? Oh, right. I should eat. Isabella asked, Your Highness, is something bothering you? Or did you have a bad dream last night? Hearing this, Alicia think. You're right. Instead of wasting time worrying over nothing. Then she said, Isabella. Isabella asked, Do you need something? Alicia smiled and asked, Shall we go out and have some fun? She think, I should treat Isabella to something delicious. Then Alicia used teleportation magic, and they both arrived in the market. Seeing this, Isabella was shocked and said, Your Highness, this is amazing. They say you get really motion sick when using teleportation magic, but I don't feel anything at all. Alicia speaks. That happens to beginners in magic. Then Isabella says, But what should I do? I don't have any money on me. I didn't expect to go out all of a sudden. Alicia added, Don't worry. I've got it covered. At that moment, Alicia showed him the golden coins. Seeing this, Isabella was shocked and asked, Oh my! Is this also your ability, Your Highness? Where did this come from? Hearing this, Alicia began to think. It's nothing special. I took it from the Imperial Vault as payment for my work last time. Inside the Imperial Vault, the reward for my work should be well worth it. Then she speaks. Isabella, you've had a tough time, struggling alone in the palace without any money for 9 years, haven't you? Let's do everything we want today, Isabella said. Yes, I'm coming, Your Highness. They both went to a boutique shop. A young girl smiled and says, Welcome, dear customer. Another girl said, This is Gloria's boutique. At that moment, Alicia showed him an armor. Seeing this, she was shocked and speaks, I'll escort you to the VIP room. Then Isabella asked, Your Highness, what did you hand over to the staff? Alicia replied, My father's armor, with the Imperial crest engraved on the chest. Is it okay to bring something like that? I wonder what expression they'll have when they find it. Well, I wonder if it's alright to do this. They bought a lot of things, and then Alicia showed them a paper and said, Bill it to the Emperor's palace, and have everything delivered to the princess's palace. Meanwhile, Senold came, bowed, and says, So, to summarize, Emperor speaks. Some of the gold coins from the Imperial Vault have gone missing, and the Imperial crest attached to my armor is also gone. And a luxury item invoice was just sent to the Emperor's palace. Senold replied, Yes, that's correct. Then Emperor think. The number of magical barriers protecting the vault is over 20, and they pierce through the barriers without leaving a scratch, taking the gold coins? Then Senold said, I will go out and report. At that moment, a soldier came and speaks, reporting, Your Majesty. The princess has requested a tea time. Emperor says, Refuse it. Isabella said, The princess will be upset. Hearing this, Senold began to think, how can he not even understand the temperament of the princess he serves? When they looked, the emperor was not there. Senold calls out, Your Majesty, Your Majesty. The emperor went to where Alicia was waiting. Then he was silently observing the surroundings. Alicia said, The weather is quite nice, isn't it? Since you refused the tea time, I've prepared a picnic instead. The emperor sat down and asked, What is this nonsense? She replied, It seems that His Majesty, being the emperor, finds the bare ground uncomfortable. Then they sat at the table. She asked, Are you feeling a little better now? Emperor asked. Why won't you leave? She asked. What do you mean by that? Emperor replied. You should have enough ability to leave. You know that nothing will change by staying here. She smiled and speaks. But where am I supposed to go? This is my home. Then Emperor asked. Don't you ever think that I might kill you? She replied. Father, you really have no talent for jokes. You don't actually believe that's possible, do you? I'm not here to save my life. I certainly don't desire your misguided love. I've grown tired of living like I'm dead. I'm sick of seeing the same things in the same place every day. Hearing all this, Emperor speaks. Live like you have for the past 9 years. Continue living like you're dead, she said. I don't want to. I didn't know this empire had so many interesting things. But now that I know, I don't want to go back. Emperor says. It's bothersome, she added. Before it gets too bothersome, I wish you'd just throw it all away. Don't you? Then the Emperor suddenly disappeared. She began to think. It's bothersome. It's true that the more I get close to the Emperor, the harder it is to control my magic. Then she said. You should have killed me back then. From now on, I plan to eliminate the variables. A short while later, all the nobles were seated in a meeting in the throne room. A noble said, Your Majesty, it has been 3 years since the Empire last held a debutante ball. We can't delay it any longer. There are young ladies who have turned 16 and still haven't made their social debut. Hearing this, Senop began to think. A debutante ball, one of the Empire's most significant events, where noble daughters are formally introduced to society. Typically, debutantes are held when a young lady turns 16. However, in the Eastern Leptisar Empire, the Emperor's absence and the war prevented the event from being held for the past 3 years. Then Noble added, Moreover, this debutante ball is an opportunity to formally introduce the Imperial princess to the nobility. Senop began to think again. The war just ended, and now they're already trying to test His Majesty's patience. After a while, after hearing everything, the Emperor speaks. The princess debutante ball. Let it proceed. After a while, Alisia was sitting in the lounge. When Isabella told her about the debutante ball, Alisia asked, A debutante ball? Isabella replied, Yes, Your Highness. It will be held at the Imperial Palace in 2 weeks. Then Alisia asked, Do I have to attend? Isabella replied, This party also serves to commemorate the Empire's victory, so you must be present. You've never even been to a debutante ball before. Besides, I believe His Majesty approved it to formally introduce you to the Empire. Hearing this, Alisia smiled and asked, Is that so? Then she think, There's no way Father would do something like that. At that moment, Isabella stood up and said, Well, I suppose I'll have to attend. But honestly, His Majesty is being too much. There's so much to prepare, and yet, he only tells us about Your Highness. First debutante ball at the last minute? Where do we even start? The banquet preparations? The dress? Ah, Your Highness has never even properly learned how to dance? Hearing this, Alisia says, Dance? Isn't it just like this, like this? Then Isabella began to think, Where do I even begin teaching her? Alisia, Imperial Princess Debutante Ball, D14. And so, the next 2 weeks became an overwhelming whirlwind of preparations, from crafting accessories and dresses, to learning the basic etiquette of high society, and grueling daily dance lessons. Alisia began to think, This is exhausting. Did the Emperor plan this on purpose? A lady came and said, Your Highness, we're short on time, so you must stay focused. She was Countess Senel, Alicia's dance instructor. Countess Senel speaks, I was worried there wouldn't be enough time. But as expected, you are flawless, Your Highness, Isabella says. There's nothing Your Highness can't do. Then Alisia said, You flatter me. Countess Senel asked, But Your Highness, have you decided on a partner for the debutante ball? Hearing this, Alisia asked, A partner? Countess Senel replied, Yes. Typically, a noble lady's partner is her father or a close relative, Alisia said. My partner will, of course, be His Majesty, the Emperor. Then she began to think, or at least, that's what she boldly claimed. But there's no way the Emperor would actually be my partner. Then in the evening she lay on her bed and said, Not that we have that kind of relationship anyway. Why did I even learn to dance if I don't have anyone to dance with? What a waste of time. Then she prayed, Please, White Night Witch, grant me a child who looks just like him. White Night Witch, I want to see my child with my own eyes. So, another one comes to make a wish upon me. I hope that he will not only love me, but also love our child as a person. I just want to build a happy family. A child, him and me. All of us happy together. Please let that child be loved. If that is your wish, then I shall grant it, for I am the omnipotent body of Bea. When she woke up, she said to herself, "What? I don't even feel like I slept that long. Why is my face so swollen?" Then she got out of bed, walked toward the window, and looked outside. Suddenly, her gaze fell on her reflection in the window mirror, and seeing her face, she said, "Why is my face so swollen?" Suddenly, Isabella came in and says, "Your Highness." Seeing her, Alisia said, "Isabella?" Then Isabella ran and hugged her, and started crying. Alisia asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen while I was asleep?" Isabella asked, "Your Highness, do you realize that you've been unconscious for nearly 10 days? Hearing this, Alisia was shocked and asked, "What? I slept that long? No, wait. 10 days? Me? Then, what about the debutante ball?" After a while, they were sitting in the lounge. Isabella speaks. "I really thought your Majesty had contracted an incurable disease," Alisia said. "Haha. It's such a relief you've recovered before the debutante ball." Then Isabella added, "Your Majesty's health is more important than any debutante ball." Then she asked, "Are you truly feeling better?" Alisia smiled and replied, "Of course. That's why I'm sitting here eating properly." Suddenly, Debian came running and said, "Your Majesty, Your Majesty." Seeing him, Isabella asked, "Devian? Why is he running over like that?" Then Alisia asked, "What brings you here without any prior notice?" He replied, "How could I send word when you've been collapsed all this time, Your Majesty?" She asked, "Oh, come on. So you came to see if I've recovered well?" He replied, "That's not the only reason, Your Majesty." Then he asked, "Would you consider visiting the magic tower?" She replies, "No, I won't go." Hearing this, he was shocked and said, "What? That was quick." She speaks, "You'll just bother me asking to solve magical formulas, and what not. I'm not going." Then he added, "Your Majesty, aren't you curious about your subjects who research magic for the sake of this empire?" She think, "Your subjects, your subjects, your subjects." Then she said, "I'm busy with the debutante ball in a few days." He says, "It's not like you have anything to prepare for anyway. Just come for a visit as a change of pace. And while you're there, you could take a look at our magic circles too." At that moment, she smiled and speaks, "Fine then. Let's go." Then Alisia grabbed his hand and used teleportation magic, and they arrived at the Eastern Empire Magic Tower. Seeing them, a boy was surprised and said, "No way. Princess, Your Highness?" Then 2 students came and speaks, "Your Majesty, it's an honor. To think you'd come all this way. Did you just use teleportation magic?" A student smiled and speaks, "Master Devian, you've succeeded in recruiting the princess." Devian said, "Recruiting? What nonsense! Her Majesty is simply out for a day trip." Then students came and speaks, "Then will Her Highness today solve our magical formulas?" She says, "I said no, you brats." Master Devian smiled and said, "Your Majesty needs a proper turn now. Please understand, Your Majesty. They're all so focused on research every day that they're not quite right in the head." She speaks, "Seems like they've only gathered people exactly like you." He added, "How dare you say that? If we go up this way, we'll reach the most interesting part of the magic tower." She said, "There's a lot here." He says, "Indeed." Surprisingly, all of these scrolls are for teleportation. Then she think, since teleportation scrolls are difficult to create, the magical formula must be preserved on a single sheet of paper. It requires advanced technical skill. To think there are so many of these scrolls, no wonder Devian is so proud. Suddenly, she placed his finger on a paper and asked, "But what's this? It looks the most suspicious." He replied, "Ah, that's a scroll connected to the dragon's lair. The range of magical power is too extensive, so we keep it contained like that to prevent accidents." She asked again, "Have you ever used it to go there?" He replied, "It's said that those who enter the dragon's lair cannot return alive, so I haven't dared to try." She speaks, "But that dragon has been asleep and turned to stone for ages." Hearing this, he said, "Pardon?" She smiled and says, "Nothing. Never mind. Then isn't it useless? Why keep it stored so carefully?" He speaks, "Well, the one who made it. It has a purpose. Raven. That's him. The one who made this scroll. Then she asked, what's it used for? Suddenly, Raven came and replied, it will be used for the research I'm currently conducting. Then she asked, why is your robe in such a state? What's all over it? Raven replied, oh, I must have gotten it when I fell earlier. It's nothing. Just bumper fruit juice. Hearing this, Master Devian was shocked and shouted loudly, wait, isn't that incredibly adhesive? Then Raven speaks, it's stuck. The dragon's lair map sticks to Raven's hand. Seeing this, Devian shouted loudly, are you an idiot? How could you hold it like that? Then it suddenly ripped apart. At that moment, they went to the dragon's lair. Seeing this, a student shouted loudly, this is the dragon's lair. Another student said, we're completely doomed. Another student said while crying, mother, save me. Then all the students shouted loudly, who touched the scroll? It must be Raven causing trouble again. Af, where is that fool? At that moment, she stepped forward. A student saw her and says, Your Majesty, where are you going? Back to the palace. She smiled and said, everyone follow me. I'll let you live and make it through. Hearing this, everyone was happy. A student said, wow, Your Highness, the princess is sending us home. Then they silently climbed the stairs. At that moment she speaks, there are a lot of traps set everywhere, so be careful and only step where I step. Follow me. Everyone said, yes. Then she began to think, before I was reborn, I've been here a few times in the past. To get out of here, we need to pass through the gateway made by the dragon. If I were alive, I would have at least tried to take form. After a while, Devian stepped forward, smiled and asked, Your Highness, isn't it fast? She replied, oh, it's more agile than I expected. Devian asked, but, I wonder, does this place look familiar to you? Or is it just my imagination? She replied, I see. It's not like you're panicking, as if you've been here before. Then Devian speaks, of course. I know that Your Highness rarely panics. Hearing this, she grabbed him by the collar and slammed him hard onto the stairs. Devian shouted loudly, Your Highness, what was that just now? Then he speaks, if you knew, you should have told me earlier, she said. Even if I told you, your reaction would have been too slow. The group finally arrived at the last gateway of the dragon's lair. Seeing this, she think, the last gateway of the dragon's lair. Someone says, what is that? It looks terrifying, she said. Everyone come out. She began to think, I wonder if this is still the same. Overcome the fear of the dragon. At that moment, a voice echoed through the area. Overcome the fear of the dragon. Startled, Devian looked around and asked, huh? Is it collapsing? She think, this isn't the building collapsing? It's the statue preparing to unleash dragon breath. You have to endure it head on, to be able to return. Then she stepped forward. Seeing this, a student was shocked and asked, what should we do now? She continued thinking, as expected, the only one who can withstand the breath is me. In an instant, a blinding beam of light shot out from the dragon's mouth. Seeing the danger, Devian immediately pulled Alisia into his arms and shielded her with his own body. Then he asked, what are you doing? Your Highness, what are you doing? Why didn't you dodge? She said. What? He speaks. No matter how strong you are, that was dragon breath. You're not hurt, are you? Why did you do that? Were you trying to make my heart drop? Don't ever do something so reckless again. I can't live like this, always worrying about you. Please be careful. Always. Hearing all this, she began to think, it's because we have to endure that to go back. Why is he getting angry? After some time, they returned to the palace. Then she asked, Devian, can't you just let me down now? I'm really fine. He asked, should I let you down? Seeing her, Isabella asked, Your Highness, where have you been? Are you hurt anywhere? She replied, no, nothing happened. It's just Devian's overprotectiveness. Right, Devian? He replied. Yes? Yes. Her Highness is perfectly fine. It's just me being overprotective because of the DR. The moment a D word burst out from Devian's mouth, Alisia kicked him in shock and said, don't even mention that D word from the dragon. Then he speaks, I carried her all the way from the tall tower. Isabella said, I should go get something to wipe you off. Then he lowered Alisia down. She says, Devian, he said. Yes, Your Highness. She asked, would you like to go to the debutante ball with me? He smiled and replied, It would be an honor, Your Highness. Then he raised his hand and asked, Would you like to dance a song with me? Hearing this, she was happy. Then he asked, But Your Highness, are you sure you'll be okay? She asked. What do you mean? He replied. After all, this is your first time attending a social gathering. Since it's Your Highness's first debutante, is it really right to attend with me? She asked again. Why? Are you worried that being my partner might make you fall out of favor with the Emperor? He replied. That's not it at all. I mean, literally, I'm asking if it's really okay for you to go with me for Your Highness's first debutante. You might not know, but magical wizards are often seen as eccentrics. No matter how high their status or fame, they're praised in front but quickly labeled as crazy behind their backs. I'm worried. I fear that Your Highness's reputation might be tarnished because of me. Then she think, it's a kind of concern I've never even received from my father. At that moment she speaks. Devian, I already carried the title of a confined princess. Don't worry about what others say. And don't be swayed. You're the one I've chosen. Hearing this, he smiled and said, But Your Highness. Then he asked, What now? She replied, I'm not very good at dancing. Are you really fine with that? He says, Fine with it? Follow me to the ballroom right now. Devian became the second person to step into Alisia's world. On the day of the debutante, seeing her, a maid was shocked and said, My goodness, Your Highness, you look absolutely stunning today. Alisia asked, Really? That's a relief, maid replied. Yes, you look just like a doll. Outside the Imperial palace, the royal carriage was being prepared. As soon as Alisia arrived, Isabella was surprised to see her and said, Your Highness, you look so beautiful. Then Devian speaks, Your Highness, you look magnificent. Then Isabella said, How did you manage to get a royal carriage? I don't think your father would have given it to you so easily. Alisia replied, I pulled some strings. Teleportation is nice, but I thought it would be good for many people to see Your Highness today. At that moment, Devian extended his hand forward and asked, Shall we go, then? She smiled, says, Thank you, Isabella. I'll be back. After some time, they arrive at the debutante ball. Seeing them, the servant standing at the gate bowed and said, Greetings to Your Highness, the Imperial Princess. Please proceed to the second floor. Seeing them, whispers begin among the crowd. They say she was confined to the Imperial Palace for the past 9 years. She is the Emperor's one and only child, and yet, His Majesty still seems unable to forget Empress Cecilia's death. It looks like he is considering the next successor. She went to the Emperor and said, Greetings to His Majesty, the Emperor. When the Emperor saw her, he was reminded of Alicia's mother. She says, I thought you wouldn't be attending the debutante. You didn't give any notice, after all. As soon as the Emperor and Alicia entered the room, the announcer declared, The son of the Empire, His Majesty Roberto de Lepechir, and Her Highness, Princess Alicia de Lepechir, enter. Then she speaks, I almost had to attend the debutante without a partner, becoming the laughingstock of others. This scholar here has agreed to accompany me as my partner. Isn't that truly a relief? The Emperor quietly walked into the hall. She was watching him. At that moment, he stepped forward and said, I didn't expect to face His Majesty this soon. I'm breaking into a cold sweat. Haha. Then he asked, Your Highness, would you care for a dance? She smiled and replied, All right, let's go. You can do it just as we practiced, right? He said. Yes. I'll do my best. Then Alicia placed her hand in Devian's hand, and suddenly the sound of a chandelier falling echoed through the hall. She began to think, What's that sound? Some people launched an attack, broke the door, and rushed inside shouting. Then they shouted loudly, An intrusion! Please evacuate immediately. The crowd started running in panic. She said, Debian, evacuate the people first. He speaks, Yes, Your Highness. Please be careful. Alicia saw a noblewoman sitting in the corner and shouted loudly, What are you doing here? Get up now, my lady. Noblewoman replied, Your Highness? Then Alicia says, Get a hold of yourself, unless you want to die here. Noblewoman replied, Yes, Your Highness. Seeing a man approaching her, Alicia tried to use magic, but her magic did not work. Then she asked, Why is this happening? He was just about to attack her. A few minutes ago, the knights of the Shubal Izab arrived, looked around and said, Where are His Majesty the Emperor and Her Highness the Princess? He was just about to attack her, when Izab saw him and shouted loudly, At that moment, Izeb killed him down with a single strike and then turned to Alisia and asked, Your Highness, the Imperial Princess, are you alright? Then Izeb began to think. Blood splattered right before her eyes, and people are dying. Yet she doesn't waver in the slightest. She doesn't feel like a 9-year-old at all. After a while, she began to think. One behind that pillar, and another over there. Why couldn't I use my powers earlier? Then she said, Sir Izeb. He replied, Yes? Yes. Your Highness, she says, lend me your sword. Sir Izeb speaks, Huh? My sword? Then Alisia picked up the sword and dragged it across the floor, slowly walking toward him while deep in thought. My mana control keeps faltering. This is frustrating. This never happened in my past life. If my mana fails again this time. Then she lifted the sword, slammed it hard onto the floor, and said, Don't doubt. It'll work. Believe in myself. As soon as the sword struck the floor, a bright light spread in all directions. She think, No problem. Then she killed all of them, and bound 2 of them with magic. She think again. By the way, Devian was lying unconscious on the ground. She placed him on the sofa and began to think. With the Emperor having fled as well, you're trying to save everyone all by yourself. At that moment, she used magic to heal him. Then she held her head and said, With the palace in such chaos, what exactly is His Majesty doing? Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. She says, Come in. Senot entered and speaks, Your Highness, His Majesty. As soon as she heard, His Majesty, she went straight to his room. Seeing the Emperor unconscious, she began to think, I can sense dark magic. Where was he hit? They said he barely survived after being struck by dark magic in the final battle. Looks like he's completely weakened. He's been utterly corrupted. She says, When will he wake up? Doctor replied, Well, we need to wait a little longer. Then Alisia looked at her angrily. He was shocked and speaks, it seems that His Majesty has been greatly exhausted from the prolonged war. She asked, So you're saying you don't know exactly when he'll wake up? Then the doctor suddenly fell at Alicia's feet and replied, I will do my best to serve him. Senot stepped forward and whispered into her ear, And Your Highness, Madame Kira has escaped from prison. Hearing this, she was shocked and said, What? It seems she slipped away during the chaos caused by the intruder. Senot speaks, I know this isn't the best time to bring it up, but if His Majesty's absence continues, you will have to handle urgent affairs. She says, I don't want to. What if Father wakes up later and gets angry, thinking I tried to take his position again? I'm too scared to do it. Hearing this, Senot handled all state affairs for 3 years while the Emperor was at war. Then she asked, Have you found the origin of the explosion? He replied, Yes. The origin of both the explosion and the intruder's attack was the underground prison of the palace. She asked, Then are the intruders who attacked the banquet hall also connected to Kira? He replied, That's our assumption, and we're investigating. Hearing this, she lost in thought. They got past the palace guards and infiltrated the center of the banquet hall without raising any alarm. Then she smiled and said, Looks like there's a rat in the palace. Find them all. The missing prisoners, and now even Madame Kira. A little while later, she was lying in her room, looking at a map and thinking deeply. I was planning to track Kira's traces starting from the casino. She's clever. She's scattered too many false leads. It's impossible to tell which one is real. Then she threw the map aside and speaks, I'm exhausted. She thinking again. I don't know exactly who Madame Kira is, but it's clear this isn't just the work of 1 or 2 people. But wait, do I really have to figure all that out too? If the Emperor wakes up with nothing to do, that would be a problem in itself. The real issue right now isn't that. It's my magic. I need to find out the reason behind this. Then she went to the Emperor's room. The maids were present there. Seeing Alisia, they said, Your Highness. She signaled them to stay silent. Then she went to the Emperor, used magic, and began to think deeply. It's true. My magic control is unstable near the Emperor. I can't even use my power properly. She touched the Emperor and speaks, Your Highness, you're truly amazing. Are you telling me to hurry up and wake him? She think again. Even if he's the father who confined me to the princess's palace, he's still my father, I suppose. Then she says, As expected, finding the Emperor's weak point isn't easy. The connection between my magic and the Emperor. As soon as she turned back, maid asked, Oh, are you leaving? As soon as she left the room, the Emperor's eyes opened. Seeing this, the maid said, "Your Highness." At that moment, Emperor looked toward the door. A few days later, Senold came into the Emperor's room. Then he started reading the report. Continuing with the report. Regarding the explosion that occurred on the day of the debutante, Her Highness the Princess is currently investigating the truth behind it. All the other escaped prisoners have been recaptured and imprisoned again. However, the whereabouts of Madame Kira, the key figure in this incident, are still under investigation. Looks like there's a rat in the palace. That concludes the report. Then Senold began to think. At times like this, they really do seem like father and daughter. Then he recalled what Alisia had said. Looks like there's a rat in the palace. Emperor speaks. Continue the investigation as per the princess's orders. Meanwhile, Kira's companions were talking among themselves. Then Kira came and speaks. It won't be long before we get our hands on the Eastern Empire. The next morning, Alisia was sitting in her room reading a letter. You are invited to a tea party by Her Highness the Princess. If it is all right with you, how about enjoying a tea party at my residence together? I look forward to your reply. Elizabeth Herdev. Hearing this, Isabella was happy and says, A tea party sounds wonderful, she said. Elizabeth Herdev? Isabella speaks. Come to think of it, I remember hearing that the Duke of Herdev's daughter is around the same age as your Highness. Well, since you've had your debutante, it would be good to build some connections, she said. Is that so? Inform them that I will attend the tea party. Hearing this, Isabella was happy and replied, Wow, yes. She asked, And shall we take a walk in the rose garden? Isabella says, Sounds great. Then they went to the garden. Seeing the garden, Isabella said, Oh my, it's so beautiful. Alisia speaks. Indeed. No wonder the rose garden is the pride of this palace, Isabella asked. But, Your Highness, what if we happen to run into His Majesty? Hearing this, Alisia asked, Isabella, are you afraid of His Majesty? Isabella replied, How could I not be afraid of him? Hearing this, Alisia think, He's no more intimidating than a glaring cat. Then she says, It's fine. If we do run into my father, we'll just greet him and go on our way. But Isabella, do you want to hear something interesting? Isabella asked. Something interesting? Alisia replied. There's a teleportation magic circle hidden somewhere around here. Did you know that? Isabella says. No, I've never heard of it. Alisia added. I think my father might have created it. A teleportation magic circle appeared. Seeing it, Isabella was shocked. Alisia asked, What do you think? Want to check it out together? Isabella replied, What? You just said His Majesty made it. How could I possibly know? No, I'm fine. Alisia speaks. Then you can stay here and enjoy the garden before heading back inside. I'll take a look around before heading back, okay? Isabella replied. Your Highness, please be careful. Your Highness. Seeing this, she speaks. Whoever made this has quite the unique sense of aesthetics. Then she began to think. Is it over there? As soon as she stepped forward, she was transported to another place. She saw someone sleeping under a tree. Then she began to think. Why is he napping in a place like this? Even if there's magic cast here, he's the emperor of the empire. Yet he's sleeping here without a care. Isn't his body still not fully healed? Seeing him like this, his face doesn't look so intimidating after all. Then she went near the emperor, and when she saw a flower petal on his face and tried to remove it, the emperor suddenly woke up. She said, It's a fine day, father. Emperor asked, How did you get in? She replied, That wasn't difficult for me. Then Emperor asked, Who are you? She replied, I don't understand what you mean. Emperor speaks, Don't pretend. You won't be able to leave until you give me an answer. She asked, Then, what about your Majesty? Emperor said, What? She asked. Your Majesty, I asked what you are? Emperor shouted loudly, I'm not here to play word games with you. I'm asking whether you are truly of the Imperial bloodline or just something wearing its shell. She speaks, And if I were something merely wearing a shell, what would you do? When the Imperial palace was thrown into chaos by the sudden invasion of intruders, it was not your Majesty, but me, who protected the Empire's people. What did your Majesty do? A ruler who cannot protect their own people. Can such a person truly be called an emperor? I handled everything that day in place of my father, who couldn't even defend himself, and yet, this is how I'm repaid. If you think it's unjust, then why don't you explain why you collapsed in the first place? Then she bowed and added, Since it seems you have no intention of speaking, I'll be taking my leave now. At that moment, he recalled. I was trying to save Alisia back then. I moved forward when I noticed a man hiding behind the pillar. But as soon as I stepped forward, a black magic barrier stopped me, and I lost consciousness. The next day, Alisia went to Elizabeth Herdieve's residence upon her invitation. As soon as she stepped down from the royal carriage, a girl welcomed her and bowed, saying, "Greetings, princess. Thank you so much for coming." Seeing her, Alisia asked, You're that young lady from the debutante ball at the palace, right?" Elizabeth stepped forward and held Alicia's hand, replying, "Yes, your highness. You saved me that day, and I wanted to properly express my gratitude like this. To be honest, I was a little frightened, watching your highness fend off those intruders, but you showed courage for the people of the empire." Hearing this, Alisia began to think, "Is that really how they see me?" Then Elizabeth said, "You must have been scared too, your highness." Alisia says, "Oh, right." Elizabeth asked, "Your highness, how did you learn magic?" Alisia replied, I didn't exactly study it anywhere." Elizabeth asked, "What? Then how?" Alisia replied, "Just instincts and experience, I suppose." Hearing this, Elizabeth asked, Is that even possible? Then, just how strong is your highness's magic?" Then Alisia smiled and asked, "You seem curious. Should I give you a little demonstration?" At that moment, Alisia raised her hand, used teleportation magic, and both of them arrived at the seashore. Seeing this, Elizabeth was shocked and asked, "Am I dreaming right now?" Alisia replied, "Let's go. We've come all this way, so we should enjoy ourselves properly, right?" Elizabeth speaks, "Yes, your highness." Then Alisia said, "But here, it might be better if you call me, my lady, instead of your highness." Elizabeth says, "Yes. Oh, I mean, my lady." Then, after walking for a while, they arrived at an area where a festival was being held. The area was filled with all kinds of beautifully decorated stalls. Seeing this, Elizabeth said, "Let's take a look over there too." Elizabeth walked over to a stall, looked at it, and says, "Wow, it's so beautiful. Oh my, are these crafts inspired by the White Night Witch?" A vendor smiled and speaks, "You're spot on. We designed these with the moon as a motif to honor the White Night Witch. They say if you hang it in your room and make a wish, it will come true." Hearing this, Alisia began to think, "A White Night Witch souvenir, this feels odd." Then vendor asked, "You seem interested too, my lady. Do you like stories about the White Night Witch?" Alisia replied, Who knows?" Elizabeth smiled and says, "I love them. I still make wishes to this day." "I'll take one of these, please," vendor said. Yes, thank you very much." Elizabeth speaks, "My lady, look at this. It's white and sparkly. I'll place it by my bed and wish to grow up tall and strong." Then Alisia asked, "What's so special about the White Night Witch?" After a while, they started walking through the crowd, and Alisia began to think, "It's so crowded. I should be careful not to get swept away. Maybe I should just teleport out of here." When Alisia suddenly looked back, Elizabeth was no longer there. She called out, "Young lady?" Meanwhile, Elizabeth was sitting in a corner of an alley, crying and saying, "Oh no! What if I can't ever make it back home like this?" At that moment, an old woman came up to her and said, "Hey you." Elizabeth asked, "Are you talking to me?" Old woman replies, "Yes, you lovely young one. Come over here for a moment." Elizabeth stepped forward and asked, "What is it?" Then she took out a mirror and says, "For such a beautiful young lady, don't you think this mirror would suit you perfectly?" Elizabeth looked at it and said, "A mirror? Oh, it does look pretty." She smiled and speaks, "For just 2 silver coins, it could be yours." At that moment, Alisia arrived there. She snatched the mirror from the old woman's hand and threw it away. Then she broke it with her foot. Seeing this, old woman asked, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" Then Alisia asked, using magic, "What kind of scam are you trying to pull now?" After a while, they went and sat in a hotel, and Elizabeth was crying. Then Elizabeth said, "I thought I'd never see mother and father again." Alisia speaks, "Everything is all right now. Calm down, young lady." Then Elizabeth says, "Thank you so much, your highness. I'm always indebted to your highness." Alisia added, "It was the obvious thing to do, so don't worry about it, young lady." Then Alisia remembers that when I broke the mirror, then I asked what trick you were playing. "Don't make me ask twice," old woman replied. I don't know anything. Then she ran away. It's definitely black magic again. Were there always this many people using black magic in the Empire? Or did it suddenly increase? Then Elizabeth smiled and speaks. You know, young lady, you should try some too. It's vicious, Alisia says. Thank you. Then she think, I'll have to investigate this properly soon. After a while, they went back to the residence. Seeing her, a servant came and asked, Young miss, where on earth have you been? Do you know how much we've been looking for you? She replied, I'm fine. Then she asked, Did you tell father? He replied, Well. Elizabeth's father bowed respectfully and said, Greetings, your highness, the princess. His name is Duke Herdiv. Alisia speaks. I just went for a short outing, but it seems I caused you worry. Then Elizabeth says, I went to the sea with her highness, and it was so beautiful. Hearing this, Duke Herdiv was shocked and asked, The sea? Alisia replied. The young lady had never been to the sea, so we went for a short while. She returned safely without any injuries, so don't scold her too much. Duke Herdiv said, No, your highness. It's just an honor. Then Elizabeth bowed respectfully and said, I had a really wonderful time today, your highness. Alisia bowed and says, I hope we can see each other again soon. Then she started to leave. Just as she was about to get into the carriage, she turned back to look, and then started thinking, Anyway, my only real family is Isabella. I don't need to feel this terrible. I hope he learns to love from that child. I hope she becomes a child loved by everyone. Then servant asked, Your highness, are you all right? She replied, I'm fine. Meanwhile, in the Liventrice kingdom, a spy came to the king and told him about Alisia. Hearing about Alisia, the king asked, Really? So, that princess is a monster who uses magic? Spy replied, Yes. Then king speaks, And the emperor has been neglecting that princess for 9 years? Spy replied, Yes. I heard that it hasn't been long since she left the princess's palace and started living on her own. Then king said, To hold a goose that lays golden eggs and yet cast the princess aside due to personal feelings. The emperor of the empire is truly foolish. His name is Cadel Liventrice. He was the king of the Liventrice kingdom. Then Cadel Liventrice added, Well done. You may leave now. Spy says, Yes, your majesty. Suddenly a girl came and said, Cadel. Cadel speaks. Sister. Her name is Caras Liventrice, princess of the Liventrice kingdom, Cadel's older sister. Cadel said, I'm glad you're safe, sister. Caras speaks. I was able to escape because you sent the knights at just the right time. It's unfortunate that the emperor survived the war and returned alive. But there were some gains. Did you receive the report? Replied. Yes, that the emperor and the princess of the empire are not on good terms. Not only that, but it seems the emperor has become very vulnerable to black magic. We can release more black magic into the empire. Cadel says, That's good news. But isn't the emperor foolish? Knowing that the princess is so skilled in magic, to cast aside his daughter just because of his already dead wife. Hearing this, Caras smiled and said, Well, it's not a bad thing for us, so it's fortunate if we exploit the rift between the emperor and the princess. Then Cadel speaks. The day when we bring the Eastern Empire under the Liventrice kingdom is not far off. I'm looking forward to some fun things happening for the first time in a while. Caras replied, I agree. Meanwhile, Alisia had reached the palace. She was lying on her bed and asked, I'm bored. Isabella, shall we go somewhere? Isabella replied, Your Highness, you went to the sea recently though. Oh, you like reading books. How about you take a rest today and read books? Then she started reading a book. At that moment she said, Isabella, Isabella. Isabella asked, What is it, Your Highness? She replied, Let's go fishing. To catch a kraken. Seeing this, Isabella was shocked and speaks, No, it's hideous just to look at. And you want to go catch it? It's too dangerous. Absolutely not, she says. I'll be careful. Isabella said. Still, no, she added. But it's a kraken? Isabella speaks. Not a chance. That's why I'm saying no, she added. Even though krakens are delicious? Then Isabella said, There are many things in the Imperial Palace more delicious than kraken. She asked, So you are really saying no? Isabella replied, Of course. What if something terrible happens? What if you get eaten? She said. All right. Then, I'll quickly and carefully go alone. I'll be back soon. At that moment, she used teleportation magic. Isabella shouted loudly. Your Highness! She arrived at Kraken Lake in the Western Empire. Looking at the vast lake, she said, it is really huge. Alisia cast a spell, and the Kraken slowly began to emerge from the water. Then she think, now, how should I start hunting this Kraken? Just then, the Kraken emerged completely from the water, its massive body towering above the lake. Looking at it, Alisia said, it's convenient that it's coming out on its own. If I just tie up those legs. She used her magic and rose into the air. Then she cast her magic and speaks, this will be an easy catch. At that very moment, magical chains shot forth and wrapped around the Kraken, binding it in place. And then she think again, why does the water look like that? As soon as she flew closer to the Kraken, a strange smell reached her nose. Wrinkling her brows, Alisia says, what the? Did some lunatic poison this entire massive lake? Then she thought, someone deliberately made the Kraken go berserk. Suddenly, Alisia turned around and saw a child sitting against a tree, drenched from head to toe. Seeing him, Alisia fell into thought. How long has he been there? Is he acting like that because of the Kraken? Fortunately, it doesn't seem like the poison has spread too much. As soon as Alisia pulled the Kraken out of the water, the child immediately shrank back in fear. Alisia said, here, take this. I don't need it anymore. Then she thought, I can't bring a poison-soaked Kraken to Isabella. Just then, the child stood up, bowed his head, and speaks. Thank you for saving me, she says. Stay away from the lake from now on. We don't know how many more Krakens might be lurking beneath the surface. Then, all of a sudden, she vanished into thin air. Seeing this, he said, I see. Meanwhile, the maids were growing increasingly worried. Just then, a teleportation gate appeared in the air. Alisia suddenly fell out of it, and Isabella quickly rushed forward and caught her before she could hit the ground. Your Highness! Then Isabella asked, Your Highness, didn't you promise me? Alisia responded, at least this time, I told you where I was going before I left, and you know I'm strong, I won't get hurt. The Kraken didn't look too great, so I just left it. Isabella gently set Alisia down on the ground and speaks, no matter how strong you are, from now on, please take me with you. No matter where it is. If something serious were to happen while you're out of my sight. Hearing this, Alisia added, Alright, I'll take you with me wherever I go, Isabella. Since we're on the topic, where should we go next? Then she asked, is there somewhere you'd like to visit? At that moment, a servant bowed and says, Pardon me for interrupting, Your Highness. How about Rena Lake in the kingdom of Riventrice? Hearing this, she thought, did I have an attendant like this before? Then she said, Rena Lake? Servant replied, Yes, Your Highness. It's a vast lake with a stunning blue hue. The water is so clear that many nobles visit just to go fishing. Upon hearing this, she stepped forward and speaks, All right, let's go there. Using magic, Alisia brought the two of them to the shore of the lake. Seeing this, servant said, Wow, teleportation magic. I've never seen anyone use it so effortlessly before. Alisia says, This is just the basics. As expected, there's something interesting here. Suddenly Isabella speaks. Your Highness? Alisia smiled and added, It's nothing. Then she cast a fishing hook into the lake and said with a smile, Fishing is fun. Before long, she had caught a large number of fish. Seeing this, Isabella says, Your Highness, that was amazing. Just then, the servant clapped her hands and said with a smile, Wow, Your Highness, you're truly incredible. The rumors that Your Highness is a genius who can do anything turned out to be completely true, Alisia said. Well, there is nothing I can't do, he added. Being able to serve such a genius so closely is a great honor. Alisia speaks. I'm touched by your thought. Then he asked, Your Highness, could you possibly walk on water as well? Alisia responded, On water? That's as easy as walking on land. Hearing this, Isabella was shocked and asked, Really? You can walk on water? Alisia answered, It's nothing, just float and step forward. Simple as that. All of a sudden, he began speaking enthusiastically. Show us. I want to see. Isabella asked, Would that be all right? Alisia replied, You really want to see me walk on water that badly? He said enthusiastically. Yes. Then, Alisia used magic and began walking across the surface of the water. She continued walking on the lake for quite a long distance and asked, How is it? Impressive, right? Seeing her, Isabella was shocked and answered, It's amazing, Your Highness. A short while later, Alisia came out of the lake and asked, "Did you know?" Isabella replied, "What?" Alisia used magic, and a massive purple magic circle suddenly appeared beneath her. As the glowing runes lit up one after another, Alisia added, "Did you know that the entire territory of the kingdom of Riventrice is one large magic circle?" Then she began to think. "Of course, I know." Then she remembered what the servant had said. "Apologies for interrupting, Your Highness, but what do you think of Lake Lena in the kingdom of Riventrice? It's full of people who dared to infiltrate the princess's palace. It's subtly different from the Eastern Empire's accent. Look at this. I was just going along with the rhythm for now. Sleep magic and teleportation magic? Even the king here is out of his mind." As the effects of the magic took hold, Alicia's consciousness gradually faded. Before losing consciousness, she speaks. "You, if we meet again, I'll kill you." Isabella ran toward her. Her eyes slowly closed. Then she thought one last thing. Right. Isabella will be surprised again. Meanwhile, the Emperor was busy working in his office when the door suddenly burst open. Isabella and a servant came running inside. Isabella looked visibly shaken as she hurriedly reported, "Your Majesty, Princess. The princess is currently in the kingdom of Riventrice, kidnapped." As Isabella collapsed, the servant immediately rushed forward and caught her. Hearing this, Senot said, "Your Majesty." The Emperor immediately ordered, "Gather the substitutes." Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Riventrice, the same servant approached Cadel and reported everything that had happened. Hearing this, Cadel burst into loud laughter and said, "After acting so proud, it turns out the princess is just a child after all. After a few compliments, she falls so easily. From the moment the princess set foot in our kingdom of Riventrice, she was no different from a bird in a cage." Then Cadel asked, "What happened to the princess's nurse?" He bowed and answered, "We sent her back to the Empire. We made sure to let them know the princess is in the kingdom of Riventrice." At that moment, Karas asked, "Isn't it time for the princess to wake up? You should head out soon." Cadel responded, "I was just about to leave." Then he stood up and asked Karas, "Is it true that the princess looks so much like the Emperor?" She smiled and answered, "When I met her, she either used magic or had the appearance of a mature young lady. The atmosphere was very similar to the Emperor's." Hearing this, Cadel smiled faintly and said, "I'm looking forward to it." "Well then, I'll be off, sister," Karas replied. "All right. I'll finish up and come down as well. Enjoy yourself as much as you like." Then Cadel went straight to where Alisia was being held inside the magic circle. Alisia sat there quietly with her eyes closed, showing no reaction to his arrival. Seeing her, he said, "Really? She has the silver hair that I despise so much." After some time, Alisia slowly regained consciousness. As she opened her eyes, she found herself trapped and began to think. There's a spell forcibly sealing her magic. I need to observe the situation first. At that moment, he leaned toward her and asked, "How do you feel? Are you coming to your senses, little princess?" Alisia frowned and replied immediately, "Miss, don't scare me. Get that ugly face out of my sight." Then she rolled her eyes and added, "What's with calling her the little princess? How cheesy." Hearing this, she burst into loud laughter and replied, "You have quite a sharp tongue. Doing this won't solve anything, princess. You're using the special magic circle of the kingdom of Riventrice, aren't you?" she asked. "Do you think that just because you've sealed it with this, I can't touch you?" He answered, "Oh, I'm so scared. If I could have touched you, I would have done it already. Stop now and wait a little longer. You'll get to see something fun." "Fun to watch?" Then he added suspiciously, "Aren't you curious? I wonder if the Emperor of the Eastern Empire, whose only daughter is in danger, is so indifferent that he doesn't even care. I'm really curious about it. I wonder how your father will react if he finds out our little princess is locked up here." Just then, Karas arrived as well. The moment Alisia saw her, she thought, "What? Why am I here?" Then, she walked over to Cadel. Cadel handed her a magic communication orb. Seeing it, Karas said, "I've already informed the Emperor of the Eastern Empire." Alisia looked at it and think, "That's a video message, isn't it?" The moment the magic communication orb was activated, the images of the Emperor and Senot appeared within it. Seeing her, she think again. Senot, seeing the Emperor inside the magic communication orb, Cadel smiled and said, "It's good to see you, Emperor. How do you feel seeing your daughter like this?" Alisia gritted her teeth and thought, "That perverted bastard. Is that really what you're going to say?" From within the orb, the Emperor asked, Tell me what your scheme is. Cadel Leventris. Cadel smiled and speaks. Your personality hasn't changed. Today, I'll kill the princess. All of a sudden, he pressed a knife against Alicia's neck. Then Alicia think, this bastard? What a load of crap. Cadel continued, but if the emperor comes all the way here to save the princess, I might delay it for a day. Then a devilish smile spread across his face as he asked, what will you do? Wouldn't you delay your daughter's death, even for just one day? After saying that, Cadel smashed the orb. Seeing this, Alicia was shocked and lost in thought. What? Did they just cut it off? Then Cadel looked at the princess and spoke with a mocking smile. Truly, your highness, your father doesn't possess even a shred of affection for you. Now that you're stripped of your magical powers, with even your father casting you aside, what will you do now? The Alicia lowered her gaze and said, You're right. I've been abandoned completely. Then, all of a sudden, a loud bang rang out, and Cadel was thrown backward, landing several meters away. Alicia said, You promised this would be entertaining, you wretched fool. Finding it amusing? Alicia was completely freed. Cadel replied, You're truly a monster far worse than the emperor. At that moment Karas speaks. Family is often those who seem closest to us, yet are the least likely to bend to our will. Alicia asked, What are you getting at? Karas answered, But tell me, do you genuinely consider the emperor your true family? You may share blood, but you've barely known his face for any meaningful time. Cadel said as he got up, Consider this, princess. Why not abandon an emperor who shows no concern for his own daughter, and pledge yourself to our kingdom instead? Then Alicia asked, What absurd nonsense is that? Hearing this, Karas stepped forward and asked, Why? Are you clinging to loyalty for a father who discarded you? Karas responded, I'll bring your nanny to you. She's your true family after all, isn't she? Then Cadel stepped forward says, We only require one thing from the princess, to lend us your strength when I require it. Stepping closer, he pressed a knife against Alicia's neck and added, What will your choice be? Won't you postpone your daughter's death, even if just for a day? Meanwhile, in the throne room of the Imperial Palace, the nobles were gathered to discuss the incident. Senold called out, Your Imperial Majesty. Emperor drifted into thought. The spirit mirror shattered without any action from our side. The Emperor's expression darkened. What scheme are you plotting, Cadel Liventris? Senold called out again, Your Majesty. The nobles were talking among themselves. A noble said, We must mobilize the army immediately. Another noble speaks, But with the war having ended so recently, starting another would cause too much devastation. At that moment, another noble yelled, The princess is strong, so perhaps this matter could soon be resolved. Suddenly, a noble stood up and shouted, This is tantamount to a declaration of war from the kingdom, undermining the empire's power. Emperor listened to everything in silence. Then he called out to Senold. Senold responded, Yes, your majesty. Emperor said, Mobilize the army. Elsewhere, in the kingdom of Liventris, Cadel and Karas were seated at the breakfast table, waiting for Alicia. A short while later, Alicia arrived after getting ready. Karas said, Sit down, princess. Hearing this, Alicia began to think, Insufferable fools. Then she sat down and asked, You two are siblings? Cadel responded, That's right. This is my dear sister. Then Karas replied, He's my precious little brother. Alicia began to think again. They seem quite close, playing at being family. Suddenly Alicia speaks, Then sending those attackers during the debutante party at the Imperial Palace, and trafficking cashionable through illegal auctions. So it was you I encountered back then? Hearing this, Cadel replied, Of course it was me. I'm skilled in a bit of dark magic, though it's nothing to boast about in front of the princess. At that moment, Alicia picked up a dining fork and hurled it at them. It flew straight past Karas and embedded itself in the wall behind him. Then she asked, Are you joking? Then Cadel stood up and shouted, Princess, Karas says, Sit down, Cadel. Then she said to Alicia, Please understand, princess. The debutante incident was unavoidable. My brother had to do it to rescue me. Alicia replied, For something supposedly unavoidable, you look awfully pleased now. Upon hearing this, Karas smiled and speaks, How could I not be delighted? Having such a dependable little brother, and a breakfast meeting with a new family member who will take our side. Then Alicia said, Well, I doubt I'll be the only one taking your side when this is over. Karas asked, Is there anything else you need to explain? Alicia responded, Then how do you explain distributing cashionable throughout the empire? Planting dark magic users everywhere? Running illegal slave trades and auction houses? Then Karas said, I apologize. I swear these actions were never intentionally meant to cause chaos in the empire. If the princess cooperates with our kingdom, I swear such incidents will never happen again. Alisia folded her arms and fell into thought. I had some idea, but the kingdom of Liventrice and the Eastern Empire really are arch enemies. After a short while, Alisia asked, So what exactly do you want from me? At that moment, Cadell smiled and responded, That will be revealed once the preparations for our plan are complete. After a moment of silence, stood up and says, Fine. Let's see what you've got, Alisia said, looking forward to it. That night, as Isabella slept, she saw a dream. This is strange. I was clearly reporting the news of your highness' abduction. Isabella, this can't be. Suddenly, Alisia called out to her, Isabella, could it be? I can't die alone leaving her highness behind. Your highness, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. Suddenly Alisia came and yelled, Isabella! Startled by the shout, Isabella suddenly woke up. Then she asked, Isabella, are you all right? Did you have a nightmare? Seeing her, Isabella was shocked. She hugged her tightly and asked, Your Highness, are you all right? Are you injured anywhere? The princess shook her head. Then she laughed and replied, Of course, I'm fine. Isabella glanced around the unfamiliar room and asked, By the way, where is this place? Alisia answered, This is the kingdom of Liventrice. You'll be staying here for a while. If you don't want to, you can return to the empire, Isabella. Upon hearing this, Isabella took his hand and asked, No, your highness, how could I leave you behind? Alisia asked, But it's the enemy nation. Will you be all right? Isabella smiled and answered, Of course. As long as I'm with your highness, what could possibly be wrong? Don't worry. But since we don't know what kind of scheme the king of Liventrice is planning, I'm a little worried. There are even rumors that the king dabbles in dark magic. Alisia smiled and speaks, Don't worry. If things go south, we can just kill him. The next day, in the Imperial Palace's throne room, the emperor sat on his throne, staring at the broken pieces of the orb. Then a noble said, That must not happen, your majesty. Summoning the army? Another noble speaks, Considering how they kidnapped her highness's nanny without a trace, they must be extremely skilled. If you go, you'll be in grave danger. You'll put the entire Imperial army at risk. Suddenly, Emperor says, I will go to the Liventrice palace alone. Hearing this, Senot was shocked and said, Your Majesty. Just then, a noble stood up and shouted, That must not happen under any circumstances. Then another noble said, You've only just returned, and now you want to go to battle again? And alone, no less. Then Emperor stood up and says, At dawn tomorrow, I will set out. That is my decision. After saying that, the Emperor left. A short while later, the Emperor sat in his office, fell into thought. Yes, this disgusting feeling. It's all because of that insolent king's provocation. I know she won't just sit there and be helpless, but… Just then, a maid arrived with a tea trolley and said, I'll take over from here. Senot served the tea and says, Your Majesty, I have instructed them to prepare your tea. Then I will go dismiss the ministers. But Your Majesty, you must reconsider war. As soon as the Emperor took a sip of tea, blood began pouring from his mouth. Seeing this, Senot yelled, Your Majesty, are you all right? Then Senot said to the guards, Quickly, call the royal physician. Suddenly, the Emperor lost consciousness. Senot shouted, Your Majesty. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Liventrice, Alisia was sitting at the breakfast table with the two of them. At that moment, Cadell speaks. Such a pleasant aroma. Why must I see your faces first thing in the morning? Because all the preparations are complete. Preparations? Preparations to borrow your strength. I told you to join our side, didn't I? Today is that day. Suddenly, Karas added, This matter. The princess's role is the most important one. Upon hearing this, she said, Stop beating around the bush and tell me exactly what you mean. Just then, Cadell pulled a bottle of cachanubule from his coat and, showing it to Alisia, asked, You already know about this, don't you? She answered, Cachanubule, he replied. That's right. It's usually used as a drug, but in some cases, it can also be a lethal poison, and I fed it to the Emperor. Hearing this, she was froze in shock and drifted into thought. If someone has already been exposed to large amounts of dark magic, consuming that could cause fatal internal injuries, possibly leading to instant death. Since dark magic is a power that devours the soul and is inherently forbidden to humans, prolonged exposure causes damage to both the body and the soul. The Emperor barely survived his previous exposure to dark magic, so if he consumed Kashanyabil now, then he's probably. After a while, she asked, "But did the Emperor really just foolishly drink it?" He responded, "Of course not. The spies we planted in the Imperial Palace did their jobs diligently. It was a long process." Then Karas speaks. "Now I suppose it's time to tell you the rest, Kadel?" he added. Inside the Emperor's chamber, we have carefully drawn a teleportation magic circle over a long period. And, since the Emperor's magic is constantly repelling dark magic, he will soon regain consciousness. We don't have much time. There is only one thing we need you to do. Once we teleport the Emperor here, you just have to finish him off." Hearing all this, she asked, "Are you asking me to commit such an atrocity?" He smiled and answered, "He's a father who never once showed you love. Nothing more than a source of resentment. To the princess, he means nothing, does he?" At that moment, Isabella arrived. After hearing this, she shouted loudly, "No, Your Highness, you must not." Seeing her, Alisia said, "Isabella?" Then Karas says, "I'm standing with the princess right now." Isabella speaks, "No matter how much you resent him, he is still your father. If you ascend the throne after harming the one who gave you life, you will never find peace." Karas says, "If that is the path your lord wishes to take, you must follow." Isabella replied, "No. No matter what happens, I will stop this. Don't even dream of using Her Highness's power for this." Then Alisia clenched his fist and said, "Isabella, I understand, so just step back." Isabella grabbed his hand and says, "Your Highness, you must not." At that moment, Kadel stood up and shouted, "I cannot step back until you promise not to get involved in this." Karas said, "Wait, Kadel." Kadel stepped forward and asked, "How insolent! Just a mere nanny of the princess." Then, all of a sudden, he punched Isabella hard, sending her flying backward. Seeing this, Alisia asked angrily, "Did you just hit Isabella?" He smiled and replied, "She was being too impudent." Anger welled up inside Alisia, causing magic power to surge and whirl around her. She said, "So, just because I've been playing nice, you really thought I was just some powerless 9-year-old? Touching Isabella was your biggest mistake. Messing with Isabella was a clear mistake on your part." Then he cast the spell, trapping both of them within its magic. Kadel also tried to use his own magic, but it was completely ineffective against Alisia. Alisia then used her magic to seize both of them by the neck. They screamed in agony as blood began pouring from their mouths. Karas cried out, "My lord! This can't end like this!" Then suddenly, both of them lost consciousness and collapsed to the ground. After that, Alisia walked over to Isabella, who was lying unconscious on the ground. Kneeling beside her, Alisia gently placed a hand on her forehead. She whispered softly, "Isabella, I'm sorry you had to go through such hardship. Let's go back, Isabella." Meanwhile, the Emperor was lying on his bed. As soon as he opened his eyes, he abruptly sat up. Grabbing his forehead, he muttered in a strained voice, "Damn you, Kadel Liventrice! Did you plant a spy in the Imperial Palace?" The moment the Emperor placed his foot on the floor, his eyes fell upon a teleportation portal. Before he could even react, he suddenly vanished. A massive teleportation portal had silently formed around his bed. At that moment, the Emperor was lying unconscious inside a prison, with his hands tightly bound. As soon as he regained consciousness, he began to think, "This doesn't seem to be a prison in our Imperial Palace." As soon as the Emperor sat upright, he saw Alisia standing right in front of him. Then he said, "Alisia, she speaks. If I were just an ordinary child, I would already be a cold corpse. Do you realize that?" he asked. "Do you understand that what you're doing now could be considered treason?" She answered, "If you intended to cast me aside so cruelly, then you should have just ended my life when I was a newborn. I understand the sorrow and anger of losing a loved one. But that doesn't mean it's my fault. Say something, Your Majesty. I never wanted a child." Then she think, "Please. I never longed for something as trivial as love. I never even had the slightest expectation. I truly..." At that moment he asked, "Really? Didn't you wish for love, not even for a single moment?" As soon as Alisia heard this, she grabbed the Emperor's neck with both hands and began squeezing tightly. The Emperor groaned in pain, struggling to breathe. Then she began to think. Maybe I did, just a little. But not anymore. Suddenly, Alisia released the Emperor's neck. She slowly stepped back, then picked up the sword lying nearby and pointed it toward the Emperor and said, "I've heard your answer loud and clear," he replied. "This isn't so bad either." Suddenly, a tear slipped from Alicia's eye and fell onto the ground. Then, in a fit of anger, she raised the sword above him and yelled, "Enough! Disappear from my sight, your majesty!" Suddenly, the scene in front of Alisia shifted back to the past. A young boy appeared in front of him and turned to the other boy, asking, "Hurry! Why has the wedding already started?" Alisia said, "This is..." The crowd was extremely happy and excited. Cheers and laughter filled the air as everyone celebrated the moment. Just then, the announcer made an announcement. The son of the Empire, His Majesty Emperor Lorbel de Fevshire, and the light of the Empire, Her Majesty Empress Cecilia Bronia. Then crowd said, "Your Majesty, congratulations! Glory to the Empire!" Then, they shared a gentle kiss. A few days later, the Emperor took her to a certain place, and Cecilia asked, "What is it that you wanted to show me?" Lord Bell replied, "Just a little further, Cecil." He placed his hand over Cecilia's eyes. Cecil said, "Lord Bell?" Then the Lord Bell used a teleportation portal and took her to another place. When they arrived there, the Emperor removed his hand and said, "Now open your eyes, Cecil." Seeing this, Cecil asked, "Is this what you wanted to show me?" Lord Bell replied, "Yes. It took some time to create." Alisia think, "That tree." Then Cecil hugged him and said, "Thank you so much, Lord Bell." Suddenly, some months later, the physician examined Cecilia and reported that Her Majesty the Empress is infertile. She has always been frail. Hearing this, Cecil says, "It's okay." Lord Bell speaks. Cecil added, "It's okay, Lord Bell. This sort of thing can happen, right? But I'm sorry for you." Upon hearing this, Lord Bell said, "Please don't say that. As long as I have you, that's enough. I don't need an heir." At night, Cecil prays to the witch, "Please, grant me a child. White Night Witch, I want to see my child." Then Alisia think, "What is this sound?" Cecil said, "Lord Bell, he wanted a child too. Not just me, but for my child as well. I want him to know the feeling of love. I want to build a happy family. A family where both my child and my beloved can be happy. I have done something truly unimaginable." Then Alisia drifted into thought. Come to think of it, everything was strange. Why did I lower myself and hide? Just to avoid offending the Emperor? If I had wanted to, I could have easily wiped out, not just the Emperor but the entire Eastern Empire. Even though I was well aware that there were far too many strange things about me, why did I dismiss them so easily? At that moment, Alisia hears Cecil's voice. "Lady of the White Knight, since you and I both grew up without ever knowing the meaning of family, we want our child to be the most loved child in the world." Alisia drifted into thought again. Yes, I wanted to grant that earnest wish. And I also wanted to know what it meant to be loved. So, I placed a restriction on myself, a spell cast in the name of a wish. The return of my magic coincided with the Emperor's death. But my power faltered, as though I could never harm the Emperor with my own hands. That unpleasant sensation that churned inside me, whenever I felt unloved. All of this. After a while, royal physician speaks. "Your Majesty, the Empress may not make it through the night." At that moment, Lord Bell took her hand and said, Please, Cecilia, I can't live even a single moment without you. You know it better than anyone. I never needed a child, so please." Then Cecil smiled and said, "Lord Bell, stop denying our child. Promise me you will love them." Hearing this, Lord Bell speaks. "There is an herb deep within the black forest of the Western Empire. It possesses miraculous healing powers." As soon as Lord Bell slowly released Cecilia's hand, Cecil said, "Lord Bell?" Then he stood up and speaks. "I'll find it no matter what." And he let. Seeing him, Cecil shouted, "Lord Bell." Alisia was standing nearby. She watched her and thought, "Can she see me?" Then she asked, "Do you regret making that wish?" Cecil replied, "The past 10 months carrying our child were the happiest days of my life." Hearing tis, Alisia clenched his fist. Then Cecil said, "It's okay. If you don't want to, you don't have to do anything. Live your life." Upon hearing this, Alisia was shocked and began to think. The wish had come to an end. A little while later, She was lying unconscious on her bed in her room. The Duke was sitting beside her, while the royal physician stood nearby. The royal physician said, "There seemed to be no serious health issues with the princess. She most likely fainted from the shock of the incident." Then, the Duke remembered what Alisia had said. "Leave my sight at once, Our Majesty." I was certain her heart had been pierced. How is she still alive? At that moment, he thought. I wasn't sure if I could love the child who had been exchanged for Cecilia. But I couldn't bring myself to hate Cecilia's child either. I never visited the princess's palace. I was simply afraid that I might come to resent the child, so I watched her only from afar. When I saw her again after 3 years of war, she didn't have the eyes of an ordinary child. It wasn't just an act. Then he remembered again what Alisia had said. "I thought you wouldn't attend the debutante. You gave no prior notice after all." Eyes that truly seemed devoid of any desire for love. So I assumed she no longer saw me as her father. I realized far too late that in truth this child had been yearning for love all along. Then the Duke turned to the royal physician and asked, "Why won't she wake up?" Royal physician replied, "I told you, Your Majesty, the princess is in perfect health. This is not an illness that can be explained." Duke asked, "Is that so?" Just then, the Duke took out a dagger to kill him, but Senold held his hand and said, "Your Majesty, you must not kill him." Duke asked, "Why not?" Senold replied, "You know it as well as I do. He is the Empire's greatest physician." The physician got scared. If not him, then no one else will be able to figure out the princess's condition. Hearing this, the Duke angrily put the dagger away and asked, "Is it black magic?" Debiangbrook was standing nearby. Upon hearing this, he stepped forward and replied, "These symptoms are not caused by black magic." Then Duke asked, "Then, are you saying there is no way to save her?" Senold answered, "As of now, yes." The Duke was silently looking at Alisia. Then he broke the silence and said, "Senold," he replied. "Yes, Your Majesty. Gather all the mages who can draw teleportation magic circles." Hearing this, Senold was surprised and asked, "What? Why in the world would you?" Duke responded, "I'm going to the Western Empire." Then Senold speaks, "Your Majesty, the war is headed toward that empire." As soon as Duke left, after a little while Alisia opened her eyes, sat up, and said, "Oh my head! Where am I? What is this place?" Seeing her, Debiangbrook was shocked, yelled, "Your Highness! What are we supposed to do now that you've woken up?" Royal physician was shocked and says, "Ah, what terrible luck indeed, Your Highness." Then she rubbed her eyes and said, "Please explain the situation to me first." Debiang replied, "Yes." Then he tells, "While Your Majesty was unconscious, His Majesty the Emperor said that if you hadn't awakened by the time he returned, he would have the doctor beheaded." Upon hearing this, she began to think, "What nonsense is this? When did he ever care about me in the first place? Is he truly insane?" Suddenly, Isabella came and, looking at Alisia, asked, "Your Highness, are you all right?" She responded, "Yes, I'm fine now. By the way, the Emperor, no, I mean my father, where did he go?" Alisia took the water and started drinking it. Just then, Isabella told her, "He went to the Black Forest in the Western Empire." Hearing this, she was shocked and asked, "What? Why there?" Isabella replied, "I don't know the details, but I heard he went looking for a rare herb with magical healing properties." Then she began to think, "He went there again? I'm worried." Meanwhile, Emperor Ravendray, who is the tower's mage, entered the Black Forest with him through a teleportation portal. Then Duke said, "Stay here and don't bother me." Duke moved forward and had only taken a few steps when he saw something. Looking at it, he started thinking. The legendary Black Forest, filled with monsters and guarded by ferocious creatures. 9 years ago, I couldn't set foot there because of a mysterious force. Just then, some beasts appeared behind him. They stared at him as if they were ready to attack. As soon as one beast moved forward, Duke pulled out his sword and defeated it with a single strike. The beast fell to the ground, and its blood splattered across Duke's face. Then Duke looked at the remaining beasts and think again. But I finally succeeded in entering it this time, fortunately. After killing all of them, Duke ran deeper into the forest without thinking or worrying about anything. Then suddenly, he stopped near a tree and he saw a herb there. He went closer to it and said, I've found it. The legendary herb." As soon as Duke tried to pick up the herb, a strange fast-moving thing suddenly passed close to his face. He managed to avoid it and started thinking, "Are you trying to protect it?" Then Duke pulled out his sword, and a fierce battle began between Duke and the fast-moving creature. Duke attacked it, but every strike was unsuccessful. Then Duke raised his sword and started attacking the herb with all his strength. However, the herb was protected by a magical shield. As soon as Duke's sword touched it, the force pushed him backward. Seeing this, he began to think, "Ever since I reached the level of Sword Master, I've never felt this close to death. If I touch that herb, I'll die before I can save Alisia. I have to retreat first." Suddenly, Duke started running back. Meanwhile, Raven was standing near the teleportation portal. Seeing him, Duke yelled, "Return to the Imperial Palace immediately." Meanwhile, Alisia was eating her meal in her room. Duke and Raven suddenly appeared inside his room. Seeing him, Senot said, "Your Majesty, you've returned safely." Seeing him, Alisia began to think, "He doesn't look like someone who just came back from the Black Forest." Seeing Alisia, Duke was surprised and asked, "Alisia, are you okay?" Then suddenly, the entire palace started shaking. Debyung asked, "What is this? What's happening?" Isabella asked, "Is it an earthquake?" At that moment Alisia speaks, "Your Majesty, I hope you didn't touch the World Tree in the Black Forest." Then she think, "Tell me you didn't, I beg you. Or we're doomed." Just then, a powerful lightning bolt struck the palace, making everyone frightened. Seeing this, Alisia said, "Your Majesty, you must order an evacuation immediately. And you must not appear in public." Then suddenly, a black power fell onto the palace, causing a massive explosion, because of which the roof of the palace was destroyed. At that moment, a child appeared, floating in the air. He asked, "Are you trying to flee like a coward?" Meanwhile, Alisia had created a magical shield with her powers that was protecting everyone. Then she think, "The situation is dire. There are countless people in the Imperial Palace." Everyone started looking toward the sky, and then Alisia speaks, "Lately I haven't felt your power under the moonlight. And that form, what's the story behind it? Aren't you going to tone down that deadly aura a bit?" "Cashin?" Cashin says, "Don't make me laugh. Do you know what that fool did? He tried to stab his sword into a branch of the World Tree." Upon hearing his, she thought, not only did he touch it, but he even tried to stab it? This might be the end of the Empire. Then Cashin shouted loudly, "And since he's the reason I came here, don't bother trying to cover for him." "It won't work," Alisia said. "I can't do that. After all, we are related by blood." Hearing this, Cashin was shocked and asked, "What? Have you lost your mind too, now that your body is like that of a child?" Alisia replied, "Do you think this is only about my body being small again? I thought you'd notice right away, but it seems you're still far from the truth." Then she think, "I have to draw all his attention to me?" He asked, "It's been hundreds of years. Why don't we try it again together?" Hearing this, she began to think, "You've walked right into the trap." Cashin used black magic once again. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed through the area. Witnessing the scene, Alisia fell into deep thought. "Looks like everyone's pretty much evacuated. Did it come close? It's slathered with dark magic so strong it stinks. So this is how you want to do it?" Then, without warning, Alisia used her magic as well. She rose into the air. As she cast her spell and she began to think, "I'll turn everything into dust." Cashin was shocked to see this. Just then, he used his magic to restore the palace once again. Then she descended to the ground and said to Cashin, "Let's end this now, Cashin. Why are you destroying someone else's imperial palace?" Just then, he used his dark magic once again, unleashing an even more powerful blast of energy toward Alisia. Alisia stopped his attack with her magic. A huge explosion occurred, and smoke spread everywhere. In the next moment, Cashin suddenly disappeared. Seeing this, Alisia stood there thinking, where did he hide? Cashin suddenly attacked from behind with incredible speed. Alisia managed to dodge the attack, but her hair was cut by the force of the strike. She looked shocked and said, "You've crossed the line, huh? Cutting off my hair? If I catch you, this won't end peacefully." Cashin smiled and said, "I never said I'd let you catch me." Then he created a black magic energy ball and says, "Try blocking this too." Seeing this, she think, he's really going all in. This is going to be painful. As soon as Cashin threw the magic ball toward Alisia, Duke came in front of her to protect her. The attack hit Duke instead, injuring his arm. Seeing him, Duke shouted loudly, "What do you think you're doing?" Cashin replied, What a stupid thing to do. Even the Emperor's just human in the end. Isabella came and said, Your Majesty, your arm! Then she shouted loudly, Get the royal physician right away. Senate speaks. No, first, we need to get His Majesty back to the palace. Alisia was watching all of this silently. At that moment, Cassian says, Humans always overreact over the smallest things. Ah, why'd you hit me? After that, they took Duke to his room. Duke was lying on his bed, while Alisia sat in front of him, looking at her hands and thinking deeply. Now I can stay near the Emperor without losing control of my magic. My wish really came true. The Emperor is already vulnerable to dark magic, and he took a hit from Cassian, who's way stronger than Cadell. He's as good as dead. Honestly, it's a miracle he lasted this long. It's a dark magic wound. Not even the royal physician or any mage in the tower will be able to heal it. The only one who can heal that is the one who caused the wound, Cassian. And me. Suddenly, Alisia came out of the room and walked straight toward the lounge. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Cassian sitting right in front of her. He speaks. You came? The smell of the Emperor's rotting arm reaches all the way here. Then he asked, What are you gonna do? What? You won't heal him? She asked. That's right. What are you gonna do about it? He answered. You were going on about blood ties just a minute ago. Why the sudden change of heart? She replied. Don't keep talking to me. You're annoying. Humph. Acting like that even at your age? So petty. I thought just your body had become younger. But it's your mind too, huh? That's because you never went through it yourself. Then she asked, Do you know how infuriating it is to be treated like that for 9 years? He responded. I wouldn't know. She speaks. Now that I think about it. You made a contract with the King of Liventrice, didn't you? Do you know how many annoying things I had to deal with because of that guy? Hearing this, he says, And that's why you killed him. Don't try to change the subject. What are you going to do now? Just gonna leave him like that? He held on pretty well for a human, but isn't it hard on you? Upon hearing all this, she yelled, Damn it! And then she turned back. He asked, What? Where are you going? She replied, That temper of yours is the worst. Cassian picked up the cup of tea and said with a smile, The Emperor's lucky. He's got a daughter who'll save his life. At night, everyone had gathered in Duke's room. At that moment, Alisia speaks. I'd like to discuss an important matter with His Majesty. May I ask you to leave the room for a moment? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Then an official says, What? But His Majesty hasn't even opened his eyes yet, Your Highness. Alisia added. I am well aware of that. He replied. Yes, Your Highness. As soon as they was about to leave, Senelt asked, Why don't we go have a cup of tea? At that moment, she sat beside Duke and looked at his injured arm. Then she placed her hand on Duke's forehead and used her magic. Duke opened his eyes and sat up. He said, Alisia, she speaks. Why did you deliberately stand in my way? You know very well that this kind of dark magical power means nothing to me. He says, Even if it serves no purpose, that doesn't mean the pain doesn't hurt. Then she smiled and asked, What utter foolishness. Do you regret it now, after standing in the face of death? He replied, Yes, I regret it. She added, I admit it. He started crying and began to says, I was wrong. I shouldn't have locked you away in the palace like that. So please, don't leave me like Cecilia did. If I lose you as well, I won't be able to go on with my sanity intact. Seeing this, she speaks. That is unacceptable. I will not forgive you, Your Majesty. He replied. I'm not asking you to forgive me. And I didn't say I expect you to understand. There's something I want to show you. At that moment, Duke took her to his private room. As soon as she entered the room, she looked at the wing and think, Is this the Emperor's private wing? Looking at the things in the room, she asked, Are you trying to stir my pity now? He replied, Impossible. Didn't you say you would never forgive me? I'm prepared to spend the rest of my life atoning for my sin against you. But Imperial authority, that's a completely different matter. I won't declare you as the heir to the throne. The position of the next emperor will remain vacant indefinitely. Anyone with the competence will be able to claim the throne. Upon hearing this, she replied, That is exactly what I want. I don't need any support or push from you to rule. Duke picked up the crown and said, Good. Then you must seize this crown from atop my head, and make it yours. She added, I will claim it, without fail, Your Majesty. Time was passing very quickly. Then one day, Alisia came to the market with Isabella. Isabella speaks. I sincerely congratulate you on your birthday, Your Highness, Alisia replied. Thank you, Isabella, Isabella said. But does strolling through the night market satisfy you as a birthday celebration? His Majesty was planning a grand banquet for the occasion, Alisia added. That's unnecessary. I despise complications. By the way, Isabella, didn't you say there was something you wanted to see? Isabella smiled and replied. That's right. I heard the story of this play is extremely romantic. A love story between two lovers who met again after thousands of years, Alisia said. Romantic, huh? Let's watch it now, Isabella added. Oh, yes, of course. While watching the story, Alisia thought, it's an incredibly beautiful story. Then, in the evening, Isabella's eyes fell on a mask stall. She pointed toward it and said, Your Highness, look, there are such cute masks. Isabella put the mask on Alisia and says, Let our princess be a kitty today. Alisia asked, A cat? Why me specifically? Isabella smiled and added, Because you really do resemble a cat. Then suddenly, Alisia remembers her past. A boy appears in front of her and asked, Don't you think you look amazing with the cat mask on? And they both are walking together. She think, What is this memory? Isabella asked. Your Highness, are you all right? Alisia replied. Yes, I'm fine. At that moment, Isabella extended her hand forward and asked, Shall we go back now? Just then, fireworks suddenly started lighting up the sky. As Isabella was walking with her, she turned around and looked back. In the evening, she stood by the window in her room, lost in deep thought. As time flowed, the scenery of the seasons rapidly changed. Flowers bloomed and withered. Leaves turned color and fell. Snow fell and melted repeatedly. And just when I felt tired of seeing the first snow a few times, 9 years had already passed. Inside Alicia's room, 3 maids came in, and one of them asked, Your Highness, I heard you have an outing with Lady Herdev today? She replied, Yes. Then, second maid walked over to Alisia and asked, Shall I put your hair up? She replied, Yes. The first maid walked over to the dresses and asked, Your Highness, which dress would you like to wear? She responded, The pink dress I had made last time. She handed the dress to Alisia, and as soon as Alisia came out wearing it, second maid looked at her and said, Your Highness, you look so beautiful. Third maid was surprised and says, How can a dress suit you so perfectly? She replied, Oh, come to think of it, the Emperor's birthday is in a week. Then third maid asked, I wonder if His Majesty will hold a party this time as well? She answered, Well, I haven't heard anything yet. Then she began to think, He didn't say anything when we had a meal together a few days ago either. Originally, a father and daughter with no conversation. Hearing this, first maid stepped forward and speaks. If he holds a party, the Imperial Palace will be noisy for the first time in a while. At that moment, third maid says, Because the gifts coming to His Majesty won't be just 1 or 2. Upon hearing all this, second maid asked, Your Highness, have you prepared a gift for His Majesty? She asked. A gift? After a while, she went to the market and did some shopping at a shop. As she was leaving, the shopkeeper said, Thank you, customer. Goodbye. Elizabeth Herdev was with her as well, and she says, Are you really all right with that, Your Highness? Knows many other jewelry shops as well. She replied, It's all right. I was thinking of a brooch from the beginning anyway. Elizabeth added, That's a relief. I hope His Majesty likes it. Then she asked, Did you have a good trip with your fiancé? Elizabeth smiled and responded, Ah, yes. Please come visit the mansion when you have time, Your Highness. He gifted me flowers recently, so I've decorated the mansion with them. She replied, Yes. I'll go next time. Elizabeth asked, Your Highness, do you have no thoughts of marriage at all? You're at an age where you should be thinking about engagement now. She replied, Yes. Not yet. Elizabeth added, It's not too late. You can take your time to think about it. Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. Thief! Elizabeth turned around and saw a thief running straight toward them. He shouted loudly, Get out of the way! Seeing him, Elizabeth was shocked and said, He's coming this way. Where are the guards? Then Alisia stepped slightly in front of her, pushing her back a little. Seeing this, Elizabeth said, Your Highness. She began to use her magic. The thief came running toward them and shouted loudly, Get out of the way! I said get out of the way! As soon as she used her magic, the thief was lifted into the air and began floating, yelling in panic. What is it? He was tied up with a rope, and the pouch he had stolen also fell into Alicia's hands. A woman came over to Alisia, and Alisia handed her the pouch, saying, "Here you are." She speaks, "Thank you, Your Highness." "Thank you?" Seeing all this, Elizabeth was shocked and says, "It's fortunate that Your Highness was passing by." Then she asked, "Young lady, would you please move ahead for a moment?" Elizabeth answered, "Yes? Is something the matter, Your Highness?" Then suddenly, the thief fell to the ground, and Alisia said, "I'm going to visit the constabulary and hand him over, and check if they are doing their job properly." Later that evening, during dinner, the Emperor asked her, "I heard there was a commotion on Central Street." She responded, "Ah, yes, it was nothing much." Then Emperor asked, "Until when are you going to go around without a single guard?" She asked, "Do you think knights will be able to guard me?" Emperor asked again, "Is it also true that you dismissed Baron Vigan, who manages the constabulary?" Then she suddenly remembered how Baron Vigan had been sitting in front of her, saying, "I deserve to die. Please forgive me just this once," she said. "Then die." To think the Baron was using the money the Imperial family provides to the constabulary elsewhere. "I can't actually kill him, so I just fired him." Just then she asked, "Are you displeased? Because I, who am merely a princess, dismissed him as I pleased?" Emperor replied, "No. If it's your judgment, there must be a reason. I hear that a delegation from the Western Empire will arrive in 6 days. That's the day before His Majesty's birthday. So, it has been decided to hold a party this time." Upon hearing this, she asked, "Is that true?" Emperor responded, "Yes. It would be appropriate to welcome the delegation from the Western Empire that way." Hearing this, she began to think, "I'm glad I bought the gift." Then Emperor added, "Also, in this delegation, I hear the Crown Prince will be visiting as well." Meanwhile, on the other side, an attendant asked, "Your Highness, you seem to be in a good mood. Is there something you are particularly looking forward to?" He replied, "Her." Attendant said, "Huh, her? He speaks. I hope we arrive soon."